Alrighty, bow hunters, welcome back. Sitting here again with Mr. Tobie Hynes. Welcome back to the show, Toby.
Thanks for having me back.
Mate, it's
Good
good.
to be back.
Yeah, this is a cool little thing. You kind of said to me, "Hey, I'm going to do Stewart Island next week. Can I come on and do a podcast afterwards with you? I think it'd be cool to get some insights out about it." And I said, "Yeah, that is actually a great idea because obviously it's a pretty well hunted destination. It's a place where a lot of people like to go. We'll delve more into that in a sec. But since then, I've had actually three different encounters where people have asked me, like, "Hey, do you have anything on Stewart Island yet?" I'm like, "Well, luckily enough, we've got something coming." So it's like prime time for it. You recently went on a trip over there. There's a group of five of you, was it?
Seven
Seven of
of
you.
us. Yep, yep. So
Um, I was going to say, so Stewart Island is what, like the third biggest island in New Zealand?
yeah, I think
Um,
so.
and I think
Uh,
the only place in Southern Hemisphere you can hunt whitetail deer.
Second only place. Yeah, free
Second.
range. The other place is the mainland in the Rees and the Dart. I think it's the Rees and the Dart Valley. Um, the
Got
other
you. So
half
that's
of them.
on guided hunts only in
No,
there.
no, there's public land in there as well. There's balloted blocks and just all access public land.
Ah, no way. There you
But
go.
they chop or shoot them.
The
So
same
they,
herd,
yeah, same genetics.
and
Same,
they're
not different herd. 120 years difference
yeah, yeah, got you.
exactly.
But
Um,
they were shipped over from like Virginia or something like that originally, weren't they? As well.
yeah, so the original population were rescued from a snow drift in New Hampshire,
Hmm.
and they were captured and put on display at the World's Fair in 1904. And
Yeah,
I don't
wow.
know what happened after that, but Roosevelt decided, oh, there's a random island down down the Pacific. Let's send them some deer. So Roosevelt, it must have been something to do with the with when they sent the wop down and the moose and all that other stuff that happened in NZ. But yeah, 1905 they dumped nine deer on Stewart Island, and then they brought the others and dumped it at the mouth of the Rees Valley. So
Yeah,
in
wow.
1905 they separated. They had 22. They lost four deer on board on the trip over. So
And you just said moose before. Do they drop moose somewhere in New Zealand as well
yeah,
originally?
in Fiordland they put a population of moose. It's a bit like the thylacine. People still have hopes that they're still around. So I'm not sure when the last moose was shot out of Fiordland, but I don't think they would breed. They didn't breed very well, so they just died out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I guess people are still searching for Bigfoot too, right? But it's like a moose is a pretty big thing. It's not going to go.
People have already shot a moose. That's the difference between a moose and a Bigfoot.
True. I was going to say, but you don't necessarily see them walking around that often anymore. But
No,
you've got a very
no.
good point. Touche. What are the deer numbers like there now? The whitetail. So you said they started with what,
Yeah, they're
nine?
pretty good. They started with nine, and then I think 1921 they opened up to hunting. So they went
Hmm.
from what's that, 16 years. So they must have built some good numbers, enough stable numbers. The problem with that island is extremely inaccessible without a boat. There's a
Yep.
small community in the north, and Oban is in the north, which is a couple of hours ferry ride from Bluff, the very southern tip of NZ. So then the rest of the island, there was a couple of farms there. Um, one of them now is a block, but it's a thick vegetation, horrible ocean because it's in the roaring 40s
Hmm.
environment. So they it's a hard hunting down there. And I don't know how quickly they spread either. There's no pastures for them to spread on. It's
Hmm.
they're what they eat. They survive solely on the leaves down there. So the first deer was shot, I think, in 1922.
Yeah, wow.
So the first licenses went out in 21, first year was shot in 22. And well, I doubt they would know what numbers are because of the nature
It's
of
just
the
that dense.
isolation, the
Hmm.
density. Can't count them. All you can count is what's shot, and I'd say they just maybe count on square kilometer or something, but and guess the
Yeah,
numbers
like roughly it would be
over
this.
the island. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think we did work out how many million acres it is, but I
I
couldn't.
actually
I'd be
saw it. It was
making it up. It's like 4 million acres or something. Does that
what,
sound
the
right?
whole island? No, it was less than that.
All right.
Well, I
Or was
mean,
it a million
according,
acres? No, it might be a
yeah,
million.
431,000. Let me find my little document that I pulled up before. But within saying that, this is also
Hey, four is a good number. If you're getting a four and I got a four, we'll go with it.
so according, well, this is ChatGPT, so I don't know if it's truthful or not. So 174 no, 1,746 square kilometers approximately. So also approximately 431,590 acres.
Righto. Of shit bush. Put it blankly. There's a little
Yeah.
bit of there's a little bit of beach in there and
Jungle.
maybe a couple of backyards in Oban, but the rest of it's shit.
And you said block before, and I don't think that necessarily many people know this. I only know it because I looked it up today, but they broke it into like 35 different blocks, essentially the Stewart
Yeah,
Island to be
the
able to hunt on, right?
the majority of the island is national park and
Mm.
Maryland. And
Hmm.
then so you got 35 blocks in the national park and you got 12 blocks in the Maori. The Maori you got to pay more for the blocks. The national park blocks are I think they're only a small fee. The huts are a fee. We'll go through pricing after, but
Hmm.
and only out of the 35 blocks, 18 blocks have huts on them in the
Okay.
national park blocks. But it's all national park. It's a bit like hunting in Victoria, where you can hunt the national park, and they know it's good for the environment and stuff. So that is, and they're all majority, I think, from memory of the map, is they're around the coast because you just can't get to the interior. There is no roads
Yeah,
and
crazy.
and you are just an idiot. You're kind of plan on like walking through the middle of that island. It's not even flat. It looks flat. Like it's got big mountains in it, and
Hmm.
it's not. It's jungle. It's not rainforest. It's jungle. Like it's proper nasty stuff. So
Did anyone actually pronounce it for you, the national park?
the Raka,
Raki,
no, yeah, they did, but we don't remember. So
yeah,
Rakui or
Rakiura or something.
Rakatui. I don't. Not going to try and say names. They know what we're talking about. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
but it's there's no sort of signs of national park. There's a few rules and stuff that come with a hut, but
Hmm.
you wouldn't even you wouldn't know it. You can sort of stop wherever you want if you're boating around the place. Actually, the cops that come and saw us from on the island are talking about the issues they have with people sailing around the world and just pull up and rock up and they can bring whatever their pets or diseases or
Hmm.
like pest species or whatever can be just brought onto that island because it's such a remote coastline, the whole thing. So,
Meaning that
um,
they can't police it, so they
yeah,
can't.
they can't police the
Yeah,
boats.
got
They can
you.
stop and say hi and how you going, but at the end of the day, it's an island in the um, and there's no coast guard type thing around
Mm.
every port. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a little tiny port at the very top. The rest is all free range. So.
Yeah, far out. And did you actually see the population of the north, or you didn't even go there? Like that little
No, we
small.
just
Nah.
waved as we went past. Yeah, this was about 20 k's away from us as we motored through the strait,
Yeah. Okay.
heading south. So
Yeah, far out. So, I mean, the whole system is tagging system and whatever else to get there, right? So, logistically speaking, before you even major steps to making it happen, like, well, I guess where is the first step? Where do you go to start a
well,
hunt in Stewart Island?
I was in this was the Hunters Club, which a lot of guys
Mm.
probably are listening in part of the Hunters Club. So this was a Hunters Club block that Paul had organised. I wasn't in
Yep.
part of the Hunters Club, didn't even know it existed until Dano put a post up and said anyone keen to go to Stewart, and I'd brief like chatted with a few guys about coming to Stewart just as COVID hit, and we're
Hmm.
like, it didn't happen. As soon as he put that up, the day he put it up, I'm like, I'm in. I've wanted
Yeah.
to go to Stewart. I've got heaps of mates in the bowhunting community you would have spoke to that have been to Stewart, and it's like tons. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm going. It's a has to go place. Pretty sure I'm not going to shoot anything. I actually didn't think I'd have as many opportunities as I did, um, just with the trad. But I got to do it. So with the blocks, so the blocks are they're not balloted. You've got to book them. And if you
Mm.
go on the website now, the most of the blocks with huts are booked out in advance, the whole month. So unless it's a nasty month like July, August, say when the winds are kicking on down there, the weather's crap, then you have the opportunity to get in there and get on. But the early like the summer months and when we went, it's midnight. You go on at midnight. When that clock ticks over to the next day, you got to punch it to make the
So,
booking.
how long in advance can you book out for?
Just
Like,
12 months. And they're
yeah,
booked
okay.
out to the hour. Some of them. Yeah, like they're
Yeah,
just full
well.
blanketed book, 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 book. So I just had a look then and actually now isn't booked. on Kelly's. There's no one on Kelly's at the moment, but where we were on Kelly's block. So there's plenty of there's lots on there, lots of options. I think comes down to the huts, the reputation of how many deer are shot, the ease of walking, like is it an open block? Is there a beach block? So you got older guys, they might not want to. They might want to trek miles through the scrub, so they'll want a block that's heavily trafficked, and they want somewhere they can sit. There's some tree stands in it, or there's a beach section they can sit out and watch the beach. But then you got idiots like me who'll be like, I don't care where it is. I'm just going to go and go and go until I can't. And
so is there like a central location where you can find out and do that
yeah,
research?
the doc website's got heaps of info, and then you just Google it, and then there's every hunting club in New Zealand's got info on it. All the web pages from each hunting club. Even some of the safari guides have it on there because they give the Stewart Island, they give the whole story on how the deer get there. And there's a lot of YouTube videos out there as well, but they're not, a heap of them aren't as successful as we were, but I think we were successful because I got heaps of mates that told me what to do and told us as a group what to do. And
Plenty of hunters who had been there previously, you mean?
Yeah, and we were good hunters, as in the boys that were doing were patient. They all were pretty good at getting it done and going bush and determined and just no resting, just hammer it out. So we were pretty well set up, I think, in that front. But there's other videos where the guys are just traipsing around and I haven't shot any, and there's blokes that go there 3 or 4 years in a row and they don't shoot anything. And it could be time of the year, could be the weather, could be the way they're moving. There's so many things, but I think as a bow hunter's mindset will make a difference in that environment. But having the rifle will make a big difference in getting it done. So
definitely, as it always does.
So then once you've booked your block and you got in advance, you got to get there. So I was doing it on the cheap. So no, I didn't. We still didn't do it on the cheap. There's a group of 7 of us. So we had guys, we'd never met. None of us had ever met. So Dano had just thrown this out. He had a couple of guys he knew in Victoria that were coming, that would join. And then there was a couple of fellas who said, yeah, they'll join straight off Instagram out of Toowoomba up there, the boys. And then I said, so we ended up with seven of us in the group. The huts only take 6 people.
We top and tail.
Oh, we didn't top and tail. Face to face. Yeah. We had a spare bed. 2 of us
of course.
Yeah.
2 in every bed, 3 spare.
Gets cold there. Saved on heating. So so we ended up 7 and I took a 10 over, so I was going to sleep. So we had guys flying out of Brisbane, Melbourne, and I flew out of Sydney, and I wasn't being tight, I was just being frivolous. So frugal, which paid off in the end because it paid off the last day. I ran into someone that was pretty good chatting to. So I flew Sydney, then into Auckland, then down to Christchurch, then Christchurch to Dunedin. Yeah, Dunedin. Yeah. And then from Dunedin, we caught a bus. So one of the boys got in touch with Catch a Bus South. So if anyone's heading down in the group, Catch a Bus South, it's a family business. They will drive you wherever you want. They'll wait while you go shopping from anywhere, from Queenstown. Wow. So they drove us from Dunedin. They drove the boys from Queenstown down to Bluff. Then the next day picked us up for the accommodation where I flew in and taxied in. And then they picked us up. They took us to the shopping centre. They took us to the gun shop. They took us down to Bluff, to the final point, and they knew the boat guy. And then on the way out, they drove us all back out to Queenstown. So the boys spent a couple of days getting to know each other, and it was fun. They were really patient because Dano spent most of his time on the drive from Queenstown on the first day on his hands and knees, spewing on the side of the road. So the boys had a massive night the night before. So. And
I thought you were going to say.
It was a long trip. It was
self-inflicted. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah. It was a long trip down. I missed out on that, but I was the oldest there by a few years. So
doesn't make you any wiser.
No, I can just sit there and say, good on you fellas. Yeah, I'm just gonna laugh at you.
Yeah, exactly.
But I missed all that action, and So you catch a bus down the bluff. So there's two charters. There's three. There's a ferry company that runs across to Oban. So you can hunt out at Oban as well. But if you're going to do any of the huts, there's a Ian. We went with Aurora. So Ian runs Aurora. Don't know his last name, but if you Google Aurora, it comes up. He runs out of the east side of the island, and there's another company runs the west. And so they're an industrial boat.
So, hold up,
Catamaran.
Aurora is the shipping, or is it a
The
guiding?
ship, the name of
Shipping,
the
yeah,
ship.
gotcha, yeah.
Yeah. And it does all the industrial commercial, does the Maoris catch mutton birds chicks on select islands that they're allowed to for 1 month of the year, because the mutton bird chicks that don't migrate, don't get off the island, end up dying anyway. So they're allowed to go on after a certain period and catch all the chicks. So they need supply runs done. So these guys run them. The fishermen, I think they supply. They just anything else, hut guys, materials, anything that's needed on either side of the island. These two companies. So if you're going to go down the west, you run a different charter guy. You run down the east, you run down with Ian on the Aurora. So we lined up with the Aurora. So I think it's $5,000 for the Aurora to drop us to our point. That included 2 tinnies. So
that's cool.
We'd book the tinny. So again, with the
Meaning
hunting club,
they leave the tinny with you.
yeah, they chuck him on the roof. He's got a high ab on the back. So when we got down there, so guns, if you're buying, you can roll into New Zealand and declare that you've got sporting equipment or not. They're not going to argue. They're just going to let, yeah. And the only thing you got to do is, so when you're going into New Zealand, you probably, I don't know if you touched on it, some of the other podcasts have you talked much to blokes? And
Yeah, once before, but it's worth touching on again anyway.
Yeah,
just
so
the subject of the matter of the...
you come out of Australia, so you got to declare. So when you're going to do rifles, they won't approve your guns 6 months in advance. They'll approve them a month out or a couple of months out. So there's a lot of documentation to do. And then when you're leaving the country, you go and find the cops, and then they escort you through the airport. And the same when you get in New Zealand, just declare everything. And there's a certain procedure to go through. And getting the paperwork takes a bit of time, a bit back and forth. And the boys only just got approval a week or two before they left, and that's apparently normal. That they're not shit at it. That's what they do. That's how it rolls. They don't give you 6 months. They don't say you're approved to go in 2026 or anything like that. You really only get approval just before you're leaving, and then there's a small window of your dates.
Yeah.
And one tip, if you're going over with a gun, declare and take the ammunition from Australia, and then you can bring it back into the country, because only one bloke, Adam, took his ammo from Australia. And if you're going to shoot deer, how many bullets does it take to kill a deer? 1 bullet, generally. So you take a pack of 20 bullets over, it costs you $100. You can take 19 of the suckers back to Australia and you're not wasted. But if you land in New Zealand, you got to go to a gun shop and drop $100 on 20 rounds.
Yeah.
And then you don't use any. You can't take them back to Australia. You can't sell them. You can't do anything with them. You got to give them to the gun shop or give them to someone over there. You can't. The gun shop won't even buy them back because you've taken one. The packet's open, so you just hand them over. It's $100. On another tip on that, if you're rifle shooting as a group, take the same bloody caliber over.
Exactly.
Don't take 7 different calibers, because then everyone's got $700 worth of ammunition sitting in the hut and you use 6 bullets. So take, I'm shooting a 308, I'm shooting a 270. Like, take the get together, organize it, set up, take 1 gun, 1 packet of bullets. Like, unless you got to sight your rifle in when you're there for some reason, you drop it. That's a big money saver. Yeah, there's a lot. There'd be thousands of bucks every year in people's ammunition.
Oh, 100%. Is it because of like loading regulations they don't let it back in, or is it just purely like a safety?
Oh, it's just the rules, I think. Once you're out in, it just can't do it.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, they're so strict on things like meat, for instance. I know from New Zealand back to Australia, we can actually ship meat if we get it processed properly in one of their butchers. So if we shoot a deer over there, you can get it processed, but it has to be done that way. Otherwise, you can't bring it back.
I think the guns I don't know why you can't buy a packet of bullets in New Zealand. You probably can, but you don't have the time to do the paperwork. You get back off the island, you're doing your stuff, you're going to pack and go. So
yeah,
you also got to get in. You got to have safe storage of your firearm. I haven't eaten dinner, so I'm just going to have another.
That's all right. So essentially, Aurora, they took you down the East Coast. You guys jumped onto 2 boats they unloaded off of the roof and just left you with the boats to take in.
Yeah. So on that too with the bows going in NZ, you walk in and walk out with them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tents and anything, declare your tents, they'll open up, make sure it's spotless. They'll
Mm.
open your tent out, and unless you're like me and your plane was late and you have to run to the international domestic, and he's like, right, I'm going to go and unroll your tent. And all he did was walk around, disappeared out of sight, and then met me at the other gate and then gave me my tent straight back. And I ran. I literally ran from the international to domestic, and every time I was pushing my baggage, and every time I went through a gutter, the wheels bit, and I went straight over onto the road, and then I'd have to get up, look like a tool, run again. But yeah, with your archery gear, make sure you got clean fletching, clean broadheads that are all new or just clean, everything clean. And then coming back into Australia, we'll talk about that after we get around, same deal. So yeah, we got down to Bluff, and about midday, the charters leave Bluff, which is the southernmost point. It's a big bluff. It's just a big bald hill. That's sort of the last of the flat, like river flats there. And then next to that is where Fiordland starts, which is the opposite. It's just that rugged stuff. So straight off the point down to the island. And we had relatively good weather. Most of us took seasick tablets a day before, and that was the first time I've not been seasick and been on a boat. So
Yeah, wow.
I was pretty stoked. We were coming out through the head, and there was a fair bit of swell then, like 3/4 the height of the boat. But it was still, excuse me, it wasn't bad. So then we hit, and the boat's awesome. It's like can carry, I don't know, 20 something people inside the. They've got a big long round couch and tea and coffee, which on the way over there was no pouring any tea or coffee. Like we couldn't hold onto the cup, but most of it stood out the back.
Yeah.
And he's got these plastic aluminium tubs, and you chuck all your gear onto them on the wharf, and then they winch that down and onto the boat, and it's got vinyl covers doubled up, go over the top with a rope. Anyway, so you get down, and he had another group with us, and they'd been going for years, like years and years and years. Something stupid. I can't even remember. It was like their ninth visit or something.
Yeah, good.
These old fellas, and it was funny. They're just wearing gum boots and whatever, Kiwis,
Proper Kiwi way, yeah.
Kiwi fucking tights and little shorts or whatever, and had these proper old suitcases, like, that light blue color, the same colors as 70s cars.
Yeah.
They're all that brown suitcase and the light, and that was their hunting gear, was in that old suitcase from 1960. And they're just like chucking them off, chainsaws, a few other bits of gear. And they were good because we were chatting to them about how they do it, and they were standing in trees and sitting on beaches, and they'd been going to the same spot, but it was a Maori block, I think. So they were paying, it's expensive. It's a few $1,000s to pay, but you can book up to 15 days on a Maori block, whereas the national park blocks, you can only book up to 10 days. You can go, I think there's a minimum short stay, but I couldn't find it. And I think it's just, you wouldn't do any less than, say, 6 days because of the expense again.
I was going to say the expense, yeah, exactly. It wouldn't make it worthwhile.
You're not going to pay $5,000 to charter over there, and then, so in that charter over, we had coal included in that and gas. So in the huts is a little pot belly, and coal produces the best heat. And so they get a coal bag, and I think we used about 6 or 7 bags, and we took 8.
Yeah, and they give that to you, you said?
You've got to buy it. Yeah, the boat guy does. Ian's got it. He supplies that, and the gas, and the fuel for the tinnies and the tinnies. So he got a heap of tinnies made up. He's got like 10 tinnies.
No way.
And they were all out when we were there. All the tinnies were out. So and they're rock solid, as they know, because the bloody tide will push them around and smash them against the rocks. There's dints all through them, but they're pretty solid, good quality tinnies. They're not just your usual 25 horse outboard motor with a 3 mil bloody thin bottom you can feel. Yeah. But then you get there, and you're going to get wet when it's the Normandy landing, when you cruise into the beach, hit the shallow water, and then jump off the front in the water that's like 10 degrees or 8 degrees. It's freezing. So you put shorts on, and Crocs are the favorite attire. And then everyone loads everything onto the tinnies, and then you just little runs back and forth off the beach. You can chopper into some of these blocks, but that's a budget issue if you want to chopper in. Although when the ocean's really shitty, they will chop you in and out rather than take the Aurora or one of the boats. So
Do you know what a flight over is like costs for a
it's a
helicopter?
big chopper,
Yeah,
so I think you'd
per
be
hour,
looking at
right?
$1,000 an hour for the big girl.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm not sure what the time would take. I got no idea how long it'd take to get.
Because you'd probably
Yeah.
have to go from Queenstown, wouldn't you?
No, they'll fly. They'll pick you up out of Bluff. The
Oh,
chopper
okay.
will. Yeah, there's a
Yep.
few. There's a provider at Bluff or at
Hmm.
Invercargill, and yeah, they'll fly in and out because there's a lot of things to run out there with choppers. It's a
Yeah,
big
okay.
deal because when the seas and stuff are pretty nasty there for weeks at a time, they're going to have to chopper in their supplies from the mainland across.
Yeah.
So and there's I think Homestead block, it's got a big beach and you can get a fixed wing, land on the beach in that block, but that's most of the time you'll be catching the boat. So that's the cool bit when you're getting off. That's the exciting bit. You're in your bare feet and your feet are numb on the aluminium while it's freezing cold, and then everyone's got their phones out and you're trying to video and you got the sound of the motor and you're just putting in, and then the hut comes into view and they're all the same hut.
Yes.
So when you see it, it's a semi-familiar view because you've seen it on the videos,
Yeah.
the YouTubes, they're all the same huts. So 99, they got together and said, oh, we're wrecking the joint. We got these setups of plastic tarps and there's chimney stacks of like 20-litre drums. They've cut the tops and bottoms out to make chimneys out of, and there's wood and they're chopping stuff down. There's rubbish everywhere. So they got together and they started building huts, and I don't know when they finished. Like 2005 feels like a number, but they started building some, and then they ended up with as many as they got. And I don't know if they got planned to build more, but that didn't start till 99. Prior to that, it was like dump and run. You were there on a little bit of, there's like bugger all flat ground in some of these blocks. It's just like the beach where we were, the hut was on the only bit of flat ground. There's probably 10 square meters, 20 square meters of actual flat ground to put a tent on in this particular block. So that it's good that the huts were there. And so you get into the hut, and the huts have the bunks built in. They got tables, shelves. They got a fridge out the back. So the fridge is just a mesh meat safe, like the old school meat safes
Gotcha.
we
Yeah,
had in
okay.
Australia,
Yep.
except over there it works because it's
Yeah,
cold.
exactly.
We were eating bacon that was in there for 2 weeks that was left by the other group. So
That's incredible.
it's cool. You just chuck it all in there, and then the little pot belly in the corner, drying racks in the roof for your clothes. So
Man, I remember going to my grandma's place in Springshaw. Like, it's hot as all bugger. It's middle of Queensland. And they
yeah,
literally had an old school meat room like that. I'm like, how do they do it? Obviously it worked for them, but yeah,
yeah. It
crazy.
just the longer you wait, the more it's decomposed when you eat
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
exactly. Green's good, isn't it?
yeah. Just wipe it off. Bit of vinegar. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool that first bit. Everyone's excited.
I can imagine,
Everyone's
yeah.
cold. It's freezing. The water's cold. Once your feet go numb, sort of, you
It's
get
always
over
hard to
it.
get them back. Yeah.
And there's sand flies that are nasty. So I got some tips, and some people probably know this from the tropics. You take vitamin B for like a week before you go over. And then when you get there, as you sweat, you keep taking vitamin B tablets. As you sweat, it'll sweat out through your pores, and the sand flies don't like it. So that was a local
Awesome.
guy who lived in Invercargill and hunts Fiordland every year for red deer.
Mm.
Um, and then we said, yeah, start taking it a week out, overdose on it, sort of thing. Just keep smashing it. When you're there, keep taking it, and you'll sweat it out. And it is
Oh,
cold, but you will sweat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's did you watch the second season of Alone at all?
No, no.
It's in the South Island, is like in around that area. And
Yeah, it's just around the corner. The
yeah.
boat driver was saying from Bluff. He reckons that the theory is, yeah, just east around the ocean a bit more. There's a
Yeah,
swampy
because they got
marshland.
absolutely smashed by the flies, like the sand
Oh,
flies. It ruined them.
little pricks. They're
Yeah.
little. Yeah, there wasn't any mozzies where we were because there's no still water. But I don't
Yeah.
even know if there is mozzies down there. But
Mm.
sandflies are just like they're like the cockroaches of the air. Them little bastards.
They absolutely smash you. Yeah. No, there's guys on that show and they're just literally like littered. Like their
Mm.
skin is just yeah, bites everywhere.
Yeah, and it's just little red dots, and they swell up and get welty, and yeah, I
Mm.
anytime outside, gloves on. Same with the West Coast when I was hunting in the West Coast at night at camp. I'd have a face veil on, the beanie on, gloves on, fully covered, and just can hear them around you. Yeah, and they're landing on you. Yeah.
So the vitamin B definitely worked for you?
I didn't. I only found that out on the way out. So, yeah, I would have done it. Yeah. He swears by it though. He's like, yeah, it'll work. So
Yeah, okay.
we didn't put repellent on or anything because just cover up. I don't want to stink out myself by repellent because that stuff leaves a scent trail like
That's
nothing
strong.
else.
Yeah.
That slimy, oily repellent. That'd be wiping off on every bit of vegetation you walk past. You spray that on yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. You walk into a room after it's been sprayed and you can smell it for ages. I mean, you just walk
Yeah.
into an
You get
undercover area
asphyxiated by it.
outside. Yeah, exactly. And so with 7 of you guys going there, like, how did you kind of, I guess, talk about the logistics of the hunt, who was going to go where and how it was going to play out?
But we'd all Googled it, the block,
Uh-huh.
and then everyone talking to their own mates and everything. So I had ideas where I wanted to go and then ended up not doing it at all, where I wanted to go, and some others were the same. So when we got there, there's maps in the hut, and you can Google, and then the guys were putting the maps on their Avenza maps on their phones.
Yeah.
And Kelly's block we were on is a long, skinny block, and I'm not sure how many thousand acres, but it's got a little bit of coastal frontage, no real beaches to hunt off, and it just goes straight back into the center of the island. Couldn't tell you how many Ks, and I doubt anyone's made it to the back corner of it. It's just you don't need to for one, and it's hard going. So we sort of got together that first day. We unpacked. We got there late because we left. By the time we did everything, we just stayed that night. We did our easiest feed. So with our food, we did our shopping in Invercargill. And then you don't have to worry about the refrigeration, long life, anything. So we planned a meal for every night, and then we took snacks. And then they were lean. If we didn't eat our lunch or we didn't plan for lunch sort of thing, we just had snacks. So we were hoping to shoot deer and catch fish.
Yeah.
So the first night we did one of the quick meals. Whoever was doing, there was 7 of us were there for 8 nights. So we still cooked lunch, but we're like, oh, you put your hand up, get your night's cooking out of the way, and then you don't have to cook for the rest of the nights. But it ended up being a good group of blokes, and everyone chipped in all the time. It was always awesome. 2 or 3 people at the cooking bench going. Yeah. So it was it happens. You would know too, and most guys would. It surprises you every time you get together with good, genuine hunters at how much you're all the same and the same. Definitely. You operate the same. Most of like good, genuine hunters are hard workers. No one wants to let other guys do all the work. So there's always blokes sticking in. So every time we go on these things, it just surprises me again. I'm like, oh, look at these bastards. They're fucking good blokes. Like he'll just like you'll be doing this, and then next thing you know, this bloke decided doing the next half of the meal. You don't have to ask him. You don't have to ask. Exactly. So just step up, see the gap, and fill it. Fire's going out of wood. Someone will put wood on it. Someone will step up and do the dishes. Someone will sweep the floor. Like it's a refreshing from the rest of the world.
Yeah, definitely.
If work was like that, geez, we'd be productive.
I was going to say, especially working in the mine site, you would know it.
Oh yeah, it'd be like they created a mine site of just pure hunters. It'd probably be better. We'd produce some mine. It'd be the best profit. Yeah.
I was going to say it'd be done within a year.
Oh yeah, everyone would be on leave. Then we're shutting down for April.
Yeah, exactly. So back on Kelly's, it's just under 10K acres, so 9,742 acres.
Oh, there you go. So you're probably going to cover about 2,000 of that.
Yeah, wow.
Lucky. Yeah, if you're lucky. So out of the back of the hut, there's a couple of. We didn't know. We didn't talk to anyone who'd been it. No one gave us anything. So we just went bush and found a couple of well-worn tracks. So the thing is with the island, they want you to feel like you're in the bush every time. So they're like no tags, no whatever. When you go out, don't leave markers, don't do stuff. The best you can do is fold the leaf of a fern down, and there's a million ferns. You don't see that. You'd have to fold every fucking fern down the whole way. It'd take you 3 weeks to walk a kilometer. So I got some tips when I left to take some reflective stuff. So when you're hunting, you're walking in, some of these tracks were quite obvious. and then they peter out to nothing and they'll branch off. And when you branch off, it is literally you walk 5 meters from the track, you don't know where you are.
Yeah, wow.
You got no idea. So I always had the thing, I'm like, not density, the quieter the deer will be, the further they are in. So that was my thoughts. I'll go further in because they're quieter. Not because there's less or there could be more. They're quieter, there is a chance I'll see a bigger buck if I go in further. So my
Quieter meaning like less
spooky.
yeah.
They get hunted every week of the year.
Yeah, okay.
So there is deer at the front, and it's that thick that there's deer sign on the track every day you walk in. They're walking over your footprints. You put cameras up, they're there. They've always shot a deer off one spot, and then there was a deer, and they shot another one, and they're off the next day. So I thought I'll keep going, and I'll just push as far in as I can. One, I can stay out longer. I'm not going to balk anyone by walking back through their areas or wanting to go further and having someone in front of me. So I'm like, I want to go in as far as I can. So the first day I pushed in for hours, but covered bugger all ground. It's like, Josh was saying, he reckons it's a K in that bush is 5 Ks in this bush.
Yeah,
like even, except for it'd be like, it's not like where you hunt where it's lantana, because lantana you sort of can't bush through it. You got to go around clumps of it. This you have to go through some of it. You can't avoid it. And then, have you ever walked out of any of your blocks in the pitch black?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And the wall of vegetation. Say you're in a gully with a bit of lantana and saplings everywhere. You got no depth perception. It's just vegetation in front of you. You can't pick anything out. So the best hunting light is from 3 till 6. Like that's the daylight. Those last 3 hours of daylight, you get in there and then you spend 3 hours freezing your ass off, motionless. There's a lot of videos of people walking onto them. It depends on your block, but the deer I was hunting would hear my clothing rustle. Like I went in, being the bow hunters, we can't really walk on. The plan was to go the first day. I went in 1.5 Ks, I think, in the first day, like really smashed it out and got lost. I'm like using my own judgment. I'm like going back this way. I didn't find my way back, but it wasn't the way I intended. And I had to just smash on, and then you'd smash and something to wrap around your ankles, which you can't see because the crown fern's chest height, and you fall over because that's wrapped around your ankles, and your arms are stuck above your head because of the crown fern, and your bow, your back, but you can't roll over. So you slowly get back up, take 2 steps, and the thing's still wrapped around your leg, and then you eat shit again. Then you take another 5 steps, and something hits you in the shin. It's a fallen log, and you fall straight over again, and that just happens all day. So I pushed in and found some nice spots, some really, really good rubs, like groups of trees that were rubbed out fresh. Found these. So with the grass, there's not much grass to eat, like if any. They just don't. What they live on is there's a couple of varieties of tree. They live on the leaves, and because it's so windy down there, constantly raining, these trees are pumping out their growth, pumping out their leaves, and the leaves are constantly falling. So there's these broadleaf trees, and you can't miss them. Big green round leaves. And there's a bug there that eats holes in them. They're not, some areas they're prolific, they're just everywhere, and underneath is just mud from the deer, just every day, just doing rounds of these trees. So I went in to find the most sign under the most trees in a spot I could hunt. So I had to be able to hunt it. So past several spots. So I started to make my way in, and then I'd find a spot, and then I'd go back. So the first day after landing, I went, charged through, didn't mark a trail on my GPS, put a few fluorescent markers up so that when you come out at night.
Just like a street marker type thing.
Yeah, it's just like I ended up using, my mate gave me a bit of rope from Audi, and it was the best. It was like cut it into 6-inch strips and then tie it off the trees. And then as you walk out on the last day, you can grab it. Yeah. And also one of the boys, Steve Demetriakis, fuck his name up all the time. Steve said get some reflective thumbtacks, and you can push them into the vegetation. And then at night, you go take a real good head torch. And I had a head torch with a low battery one of these nights. It was not a good idea because, again, my bow spent a cold night in the mud. So when you're looking at that wall of vegetation at night with a reflective device, you can see 50 meters in further. So you just drop the reflectors up and then take them out the next day, on your last trip out. So each day I was pushing in further, marking tracks, but I was only doing it. So I took these, also another thing, got these cheap cameras. So first day pushed in. That night, grabbed Josh because we were sort of going together. I was the only one who ended up doing most of it by myself. To a degree, the boys were separating, but a lot of the time there was a few of them going together. But I took Josh in, and it was like a first night sitting there dead quiet, and then hear something coming and a buck. And the very first night, like just before last night, this buck comes trotting straight up the gully through a clearing on a pad, stops in front of me 10 yards, draw back, it looks at me, and I fire, and it completely drops and jumps the string, and it hits a tree right behind it, like dead in line. I went down and I'm lining up the stuck arrow, and it's straight through where I wanted. I didn't even see this deer drop. I didn't even see it. It's just like, hectic. I'm like, that arrow's gone through that deer. And then, no, it hadn't. So
how big are they comparative? Like a fallow deer?
Fallow. Yeah, about a fallow. Yeah. And I was like, it's low light. I was pretty still, and I drew that bow slowly. Like, it stopped. I think it stopped as I drew back. So if that was a fallow, that was dead. If it was a red, it was dead. Samba, probably dead. Chittle, probably would have jumped the string.
Yeah.
But it wasn't 100%. That was the first glimpse it would have got of me, but it jumped, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to shoot him closer than that. I think it's 10 or 12 yards, and it pissed off down the bush. I'm like, oh, that's good. First night out, seeing a deer, and the other boys get back, and they hadn't seen one. And the bloke next to me, Josh, he wasn't ready, and he didn't have time to get ready because they're sort of switched on. So once they're alert, you got nothing. You can't do anything. It takes multiple movements to draw. It takes multiple movements for the guys with guns even to get their gun to their shoulder at that point when they're alert. So the next day, I put a camera, or the next morning, I followed his path where he came from, because I'm like, where is he? What's he doing? He's a buck. He had little like nubs for antlers. So the population's a lot of inbreeding over there. There's been no genetic influence since they released them. So you get a lot of hommels with little stubby antlers, no antlers. You get these like weird-headed, buff-headed looking, weird-shaped deer. You get little ones, big normal-sized deer. So it's a bit of a lucky dip.
Is there like big heads over there still?
Yeah. Last year, there's 2 big heads got taken.
Yeah.
Like one of them might be the new top, but only off certain blocks. And this Kelly's block's got one in the top 10, but there's none anywhere else. There's a couple of good blocks. I'm not sure. I think Lord's block's one of them, which is booked out all the time. Has consistently produced multiple 4-point, 6-point, 8-point bucks. So you got to go through and have a look at what history is saying has been shot. So I followed that anyway. The next morning, I followed that path down, found a scrape from him, put a camera on that, and once I'd been to that scrape, he didn't come back. I didn't stand on it. He just didn't come back once he got shot at. So I pushed down further, found the feed tree, found 3 rub trees in a row, found this awesome tree sitting spot. We actually end up finding 2 sets of bones near this tree. So it's massive. You can sit in the trees in some of these blocks. They're like, you don't need to take a tree stand.
Is there some preset tree stands or anything there? Anyway?
Yeah, there's a few homemade ones. There's a few that are there. People are marking the GPSs. I didn't see any. I didn't look for them. I didn't have my head up in the trees. I was looking for sign the whole time and looking for spots. But this awesome tree, we're sitting, when I took another bloke there, we're sitting feet to feet on this tree. It's like 2 foot, 3 foot diameter tree, flat on top, perfectly broadside to a broadleaf tree at a culmination of pads with scrapes and rubs. And I sat out there the first night. Yeah, first day there, saw another 3 deer. If I had a rifle, I would have been able to shoot them. I was sort of 50 meters away. Yeah, it was pretty. And I only just saw because their tails, again, and a couple of boys thought this, they look like willy wagtails flickering. Their tail is this big furry white bloody feather duster.
Yeah,
And
wow.
it's really cool. It's like sticks out like dog's balls when you see it, but you think it's a bird flashing, but it's actually the deer. And
It's crazy.
the crown ferns at the same height, so that was a good giveaway. It's hard to pick them otherwise.
Mm.
It would have been good with the rifle there. I would have been able to get one of them on the ground. They're all girls, but that was pretty cool. They were around for about half an hour, and I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. They would look in my direction, but they were 50 meters away in a gully, just visible, and they still knew things weren't right.
Yeah, wow.
And another thing with the bush is over there, it is the quietest bush ever.
Meaning like there's
Ever.
no bird life or anything like
Nah,
that.
there's like 3 species of birds.
Yeah,
There's
wow.
there's black birds. They're similar to like a rifle bird in the jungle, or they sound like a lyrebird. They make that
Mhm.
chattering noise. They don't stop all day. They just go all day. They got a white patch on their blackbird with a white patch on their neck, which bulges out as they call, and they
Yeah.
will call non-stop all day. There's a little chattery fantail, and then there's your kiwi bird. There might be another couple, but they don't. If they're not making noise and there's no wind, they could probably hear you fart a kilometer away. Like it is dead silent. You can hear the ocean like bashing waves, and there's nothing. And you can hear your movement, you can hear your pulse. It's
Wow.
super quiet, which makes it shit
Yeah.
because you can hear everything and they can hear you. So it it's it's like nothing else. That bush is so quiet. So when you have to move, so that I think the second night I'd seen those deer that day. So that night I grabbed one of the band to come over with me. This might have been the third day in. I grabbed Ben. I said, "You come down with me in case they show up again."
Hmm.
And this was my second night at that big tree. And then we're there quiet, and Ben was great because he sat dead still. And you're getting cramps. You want to move. You're frozen. It's because you're not moving. We were so walking in. It rains. It sprinkles and it's damp. It's just always damp. It's never hot enough to dry out. We got really good weather. We didn't get any rain constantly. We had one day where some big squalls came through, but the rain will blow through and then be gone again. It's sunshine. It was beautiful weather.
Hmm.
And so when you're walking in, everything's brushing off on you. You're wet. So waterproof socks were a must. They were so good. I bought some seal skins and wore them for like 4 days straight. They didn't even
Yeah,
smell.
wow.
Keep my feet dry. Had rain gear on. I was pretty dry till I fell. We hit the sandbar on the boat and I fell off the front and fucking ended up in the drink. So I I got wet feet then. But
We'll pause there real quick. What is your camo that you took for it? What was your
I was wearing my tusk. I had
Mhm.
some nylon thermals and some. I had my tusk pants with waterproof knees and waterproof ass. Waterproof ass made a big difference because you're sitting
Yeah.
on your ass. I had some Under Armour wet weather shield,
Hmm.
like a soft shell.
Yeah.
And I bought a couple of jumpers over there as well. So I was wearing 4 layers. So hiking in, this is another thing. So it is cold. You walk in and you're sweating. So you can either undress and be cold when you leave the hut and then you'll warm up, and then hike in and then redress when you get there and put everything warm off and take your rain gear. But then you run the risk of it raining while you're sitting
Mm.
there and getting drenched anyway. So I end up wearing most of my rain gear, or just end up wearing everything. And yeah, the Under Armour rain gear I got off Lonnie. He was selling it. It was pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. It's expensive gear though.
Mhm.
It was, but with the waterproof socks, so you're sitting there and you're damp, and there's always a breeze, so you freeze like you absolutely. It
Yeah,
might
far
only be
out.
10 degrees out, which is does it is cold. 10 is cold. It's not a -1, but it is freezing because there's no sun to warm you up, and
Mm.
there's a slight breeze the whole time. You're off the ground and everything is wet. And so the boys were saying, Benny Solaris give you the tips for this, and Steve again, heat packs. So you can
Oh
buy
yeah.
40 of them for like $20 on
Yeah,
eBay.
yeah.
Those ones that once you open them, you expose them to the air, they start
Yeah,
acting. You
start
get
going.
8 hours of them. So I had them. I had heaps. I had like 3 kilos of them. So I was giving them to the fellas. I had them in my pockets, in my chest pockets, in my boots, like everywhere to keep warm. And I was literally clenching them the whole time with my hands in my pockets some of those nights. But then you run the risk of you can't move when there's a deer there.
Mm.
So being the Bowhunter, I had to wear fingerless gloves as well. So I got smashed from my knuckles up by sandflies because I had exposed fingers. So I ended up wearing a glove on the bow hand and then the fingerless gloves on the other hand. But you got to sit ready to shoot. So you got to be
Yeah,
in a
far
position to
out.
shoot. So
Yeah.
and I tucked them into my sleeves, and then they start burning on my wrists. But again, in your sleeves, because all the arteries in your arm, they do
Hmm.
pump the heat
Blood.
gets
Yeah.
pumped around. So, um, but that wet and sitting
It's
is
tedious. Yeah.
uncomfortable, and you're
Yeah.
never sitting good. And I'm structurally pretty compromised, so I was having a hard time. So I was taking a lot of painkillers and drinking a lot at camp. Why I was struggling to stay awake when I was sitting in the trees. There's boys got videos of me just sound asleep while I'm in the tree opposite them because of taking the painkillers. I couldn't stay awake in a tree, so I'd have like 10-minute power naps every 20 minutes. So I don't know what walked past me. Um, but when the deer do come, you can hear them
Mm.
when they're fucking right there. Like there's no warning 20 meters out.
Yeah,
You hear a
wow.
footprint, it's someone below you. So
No
the
way.
first the first deer was just a face through the ferns, and as soon as Benny on the opposite of me sat forward with his head, like I've just sat with my bow on my lap and string knocked. That's how I was sitting with the grip. And in the position I was in, I was able to drop the limb down beside the tree I was on. So it was a big horizontal tree.
Hmm.
And we're about 10 feet up. And I was able to drop my limb down and then I can just sit forward a bit, draw back to my shoulder. And I had a clean shot at about 10, 12 yards.
Mm.
As soon as he pulled his head off the tree, the deer looked up at us.
Far out.
And then so it took another 5 minutes to get to the leaves on the ground below the broadleaf tree. So he I'm like, don't move. Just give him the eyes of like the most open eyes you can do to say, sit the fuck down, don't move
Daggers,
anywhere,
yeah.
just stay dead still. And he's like, just give me the nod and knew exactly what to do. So he couldn't watch it, he couldn't do anything, couldn't video, had to sit there. And it took me like 3 or 4 movements to get my bow up. And this deer was like 6 months old. It's tiny. It's like 2 foot high. And it just kept like, look back at me. And then I'd like, "Ugh," and not even making a sound. And it's looking up, and then it'd go back and it'd eat half a leaf and then look back at me and then eat half a leaf and look back at me. And eventually I waited, and then I got the shot away again, proper ducked it, like full on.
No way.
So it was in front of a stump, and the arrow hit the stump a foot off the ground, perfectly where it would have gone straight through the deer. And it pissed off. And then 40 minutes later, Ben's looked at me and given me the eyes. I'm like, righto, I'm not moving. Just slowly put my finger up into my ears so I could block my ears. Didn't do any other moving. And it took him ages to get the gun up. And we think it was the same deer, had walked around in a big loop, and it's walking back up behind me, looking at the tree the whole time it's walking up. And so he's like, this thing's looking at where
Knows,
I
yeah.
was, trying to see if he was a thing as well. And it's just on dark. So it was hard. And he just got a shot before it ran. And he nailed this thing with the 270 and it ran like 20 meters. And we're cheering. I'm like, go fucking chase it. We're going to have no daylight. You won't find the bloody thing. And anyway, we found it straight away, thankfully. Because the blood wasn't that good. It's wet, it's damp, it's
Yeah.
dark. There's leaf litter everywhere. Yeah. And we found it, and it was just like stoked, epic moment. But it was so switched on, and like I just couldn't. Well, I couldn't believe how much this deer that's only 6 or 8 months old, unless it was like a malformed, short, stumpy deer.
Mm.
But it was switched. And we don't know if it was the same deer, but it was coming to look up that tree.
Seemed
It
legit
wasn't
like it
coming
was,
to eat.
yeah.
It wasn't on the same pad any as I was using. It had come in from a different side.
I mean,
To
it would
have a
make
look.
sense it was a young deer because curiosity killed it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't survive. So it probably won't do that again, ever. So it was delicious though. God, it tasted good. I don't know if we were just hungry from being out in the bush.
Yeah.
But on that note of walking, when walking, so you think you're fit, and you are fit, most of us. But when you put thermals on, you put socks on, you put gaiters on, you put boots on, you put pants on. The gaiters on your pants, as you know, when you wear gaiters, you can't lift your knees right up because you got your
Hmm.
gaiters tight. They're grabbing on your pants. Your belt's tight, your backpack's on, you got a jacket on. and you got your rain gear on, you can't lift your knees up. You're restricted. Your movements, you're stiff as. Anywhere
Yeah.
you go's a battle straight away. Then you're tripping over. You're trying to get up. You're like a fucking turtle. Like you can't move. And then and you're lying there frustrated because you're so rigid because all the clothing you got on that you just and you can't push through stuff you normally push through. You can't step over stuff you normally step over. I got my lips ripped open by this vine, wrapped straight across my face and just tore my lip open. It's like a blackberry but littler spikes. It was
Yeah. Ouch.
and that was one of the biggest things is like the bush is just destroys you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's that is a nightmare stuff for
Definitely.
you got well, I keep ranting. You got any questions on any of that? Yeah.
No, I'm liking it. It's good little conversation. Like, I mean, it's good that it's just flowing, right? I mean, how high up are you guys actually getting when you get to this point? Like, is it pretty mountainous to climb up?
No, we're only like altitude of 50 meters.
Yeah, okay.
So
Gotcha.
another thing on it is this rolling ridgelands that run and slowly climb their way to the middle of the island. So you got
Mhm.
one of the boys I was talking to said that Kelly's was a bit of a gentleman's block in that you can follow these ridge lines.
Yeah.
And the old guys we spoke to said you can follow these ridge lines, and you can, but you can't. So not all rivers run to the sea there.
Yeah.
They run into soaks. So
Yeah,
you could
gotcha.
be 300 meters inland and the water's not running out to the ocean. So if you get lost, you can't follow a gully out. It just
Yeah,
goes
fuck.
to a soft spot in the middle of the jungle. It's like, and then there's coming out. So after that event with that deer, I didn't get any more deer on camera there. But as a 24-hour period, this is stretched over 10 days or 9 days of hunting.
Mhm.
So I pushed on again, not far, only like 200 meters to the next spot that I saw a heap of activity. And coming out that night, I was using a different torch. I had my other torches on charge. So we did take a generator. The hunting club supplied a generator, and it's like, oh, it's cheating. You're not backpacking. We're there for 10 days, no sun. There's nowhere to charge anything. And
Mm.
charging packs are done after 3 days. And if you're coming out every night under torches, you take a heap of batteries. But we just ran the
Definitely.
generator for an hour every day. I think we used 5 liters of fuel of the whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
And it charged our lights we didn't take any kerosene. You could take kerosene lamps and stuff like that for
Mhm.
the cabin, but it charged our lights for the cabin. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
and our head torches. And I was on charge. And that night I was on my way out, and this was again, I got another shot at a deer. So I'm standing on a log this night. This is like the fourth or fifth night. I'm standing on a log with my butt because my back was killing me from sitting, like proper killing me. I'd get half shit faced to go to sleep at night. I
So you're
was
sitting
in a
just for
bad way.
those 3 hours, or you're sitting for longer?
Nah, probably three. Yeah, only 3 hours, but the cold and the position
Yeah, no, definitely. No.
just not great for me anyway. Some of the other boys were sitting in worse positions. They're like wedging their feet, they're getting pins and needles, and I think I had pretty good spots. I was pretty picky, so I found this ancient broadleaf on top of this ridge, and I'm sitting there and good spot. And then I hear it again, and it's not. You hear them just as you see them, like that instant, that
Mm.
same time, they just materialize there in front of you. And a young buck with, I think he had buttons. Anyway, he balked at going to the main tree because I'd walked near it and decided to come over to where I was. So
Mm.
this little prick had come over to the branches. I'd broke off my tree. Whole time we're there, we're going, geez, this smells like shit here. And it was the tree that I was sitting in is called stinkwood. So there's a stinkwood in Australia in the top end that when you burn it, it smells like shit. So it's called stinkwood. This literally smells like someone shit themselves.
No
A
way.
lot of the time you're on the island, you're like, what is this? And then finally on the way out, we read a book and it said it's all stinkwood. So
There
yeah,
you
when you
go.
break it, it smells like shit. And it's like you feel like Carl Barron, when he's ripping his brother off
Yeah,
and he's putting his hand in dog shit. So you're doing that the whole time, going,
constantly sniffing, yeah.
have a what? It's like,
Yeah, cop a finger in the bum
yeah.
accidentally.
So let's come over, and they do apparently eat that when they get hungry. And he's right below me, right, like directly below me at maybe 5 degrees, and I got nothing. So I'm holding the bow out. You don't practice at shooting three
No,
meters directly below you.
no.
So I like, thump, and it stabbed and just brushed his armpit. Like it
Oh,
only had to be 2 inches across,
yeah,
and it would have gone at the angle and would have gone straight through it. So it went across his armpit and then stabbed the ground directly underneath him. Like, that was a proper miss. Like, I
yeah.
missed that one. He didn't jump the string. I was like, damn it. And I was stoked to see one, but Devoed, I didn't wait longer.
Mm,
It was impatience that did that. I could have waited. He may eventually
walk
sussed
back
out
out
where
a
I
bit.
was, walked
Yeah,
over to the leafy tree, but also made the decision right then that I can't shoot at him unless it's windy and they can't hear me and there's no distraction, because they were just the way he didn't have time to move, but when he did move, he was gone. So
mm,
it was like, gotta wait. So I stayed in that tree a bit longer, got out of the tree, went the wrong way. Couldn't find my markers. I had the wrong torch, head torch on, lower power. I'm like, I know where I am. I had an in reach from James Deemstis. I'm like, right, oh, this is the first day I've decided to use my in reach. It's like day 5, and I hadn't been that proficient with it. And they're pretty shit when you're not moving. You
yeah.
can't move in the jungle and look at your in reach at the same time. So I'm like, all right, it's over there. I'll just head that way. And like, or I was going that way for like 10 paces. And then you got to sidestep this and sidestep that.
Hmm.
And I end up, I crossed between two of my markers, fell down into a creek, fell over. I fell over one time and there's screeching, and in front of me is a possum looking at me. I couldn't get my bow out quick enough to shoot this possum. But I was getting proper frustrated with myself, like real angry about how retarded I was
It is
trying to get
crazy
out of the
once the
bush.
sun gets down, though. Like, oh, I know the mountains around my block pretty well, but once the sun's gone, it can just derail you so quickly.
Oh, it's just a blank wall.
Yeah.
There's no, you can't even recognize trees you'd
Uh-huh.
recognize in the daylight. And gaps between the vegetation. You can't tell what's a gap and what's not.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's
I planned to walk around this hilltop once and I ended up in this gully. I'm like, I should be at the house. Where the heck is it? And it took me a while to actually find it and find my way out, but I was just in the divot before the actual place. I'm like, I'll get there eventually. But yeah, it's crazy how much it can throw you.
all right. And those yeah, the inReach calibrated like 4 times, but I fell like proper 2 or 3 meters down this muddy gully, just face first, arms first into the bottom, and trying to get out the other side, you just met with junk. And I was like, I was hating life. It was probably the crappiest experience I've ever had
What the
hunting. I
fuck
wasn't
am
gonna
I
let it
doing
beat me,
here? Yeah.
but I'm like, you're an idiot. And then that wasn't even to top it off. So I calibrated the bow and I was cooking by this time, like sweat running off me. I was like those. It was only over like a 40-minute period, but I'm like, this is how people go crazy so quick. Like I want to get
Uh-huh.
naked. I'm that hot, and this is why people probably take all their clothes off. It's like, so I took all my extra gear off. So I was just basically like, right, I cool down, recalibrate, find a bit of clear ground so I can walk a few meters and get the inReach to calibrate and tell me where I'm going, because it was constantly spinning. And all the boys found that if you couldn't walk 10 meters in a straight line. So you can't look at inReach and just go, yeah, it had trouble finding you all the time. It'd find your exact location, but it wouldn't find if you're going north, south, east, or west.
Yeah, wow.
So when I did that, took all that, calibrated, I'm like, yes, it's on. Now I'll just slowly keep moving while it's on. And I get like 10 minutes later, realize my other hand, there's nothing in it. And I'd put my bow down and take all my gear off. I'm like, ah. And by that time, I was like, yeah, fuck this. I don't care. So I like left it there. I'm like, oh, we'll come back tomorrow. I know where that gully is. Yeah, I thought I knew where that gully is. Next day, I
Oh,
come back. I'm pointing down here. I'm going, boys, I think my bow's down there. Um, I forget who come down and helped me look for it. I think it was Adam and Josh came, I think. I can't remember. And I'm like, yeah, it's down that gully. And Adam's like, where's your inReach? Your inReach says it was over in this gully. And I'm like, no, I walked through there. I'd crossed my track like 3 times. I'd walked in the opposite direction to where the hut was. Like I was proper not in it. And then I'm like, all right. So we got the inReach and it was right where I thought it was, where the inReach said it was, on the ground where I'd left it. It was like, wasn't hard to find. It took us 5 minutes.
yeah.
But that night, I had zigzagged, gone
that
backwards,
much. So the
fall.
inReach has like the steps that you've taken and whatever.
It follows, yeah.
Yeah.
It kept losing it. So there's gaps. I'd have it where it'd
Got you.
find me
Yeah.
and then it'd
Okay.
go in a straight line
Yeah.
and just pick up my next point. So I
Mm.
was a mess. Even with Cam, we were walking and we were doing figure eights in broad day. It wasn't broad daylight, it was raining.
Yeah.
Like with our inReaches, and Josh and I went one night, we were proper, we couldn't find the track that I'd marked. Again, we couldn't find a reflector. We're using both of our inReaches, alternating, trying to find our way back. So that night, when I put my bow down, I only got another 20 meters and I saw my like reflector, and I'm like, ooh, instant body relax. I know
Yeah.
where I am.
Relief. Yeah.
Back off I go, and I was only an extra half an hour, and it wasn't anything different. But it's just that. But when I was with Josh, I'm like, oh, we'll find our way. We'll get it. We'll just keep alternating until we find a marker. And again, Josh was saying, I was glad that we weren't somebody. No one would go there that would do it, but you can imagine. You all know people who would lose their shit in that situation, even after a short period of time. Would like I was only that small period of time, and I just said to myself once I dropped the bow, because you're that hopelessly out of disorientated, there's no point to just keep pushing on. You
No.
just, if you can't find your way within an hour, you just stop and camp up for the night
Yeah.
and wait till daylight, then backtrack and find your way out. So I was like, that's going to happen. But because you're like, it's just here, but it's not just there. You are proper lost. There's a guy got lost on Kelly's block and got rescued 3 days later on another beach on another block.
Yeah.
So he was gone for 3 whole days and someone spotted him on another beach.
That is
He didn't
hectic.
call, they saw him with a boat on another beach. So it is, if you're going, the recommendation is to take a compass and always have your paper map with you. And
Yeah. Wow.
so you can push in straight lines, but it is hard yakka. So I put more reflective things up after that, and I put them right next to my trees where I was sitting from then on, and I made sure I had my good torch, because even if I missed a marker with a real good, I think I had a lead lenser, I could, on the beam, I could see 3 or 4 markers ahead, so I could get 100 meters through the vegetation, a marker would show up. Even though it's all jet black, it's that little orange rope or something miles off and you were in. But the torch I had that night was just a cheap Energizer battery torch, and it was good for 20 meters. So
that is such a good tip though, having the reflective tape or something to
oh,
put
it is
up.
once you've been there. Holy smokes, yeah. Then once you post that, there's heaps of stories. People get lost and hate life, like proper
Man, I
hate
just
life
actually I was looking up trying to figure out how many lives are lost in it, because that was where my head went to straight away. Like there's got to be fatalities that happen on Stewart Island, right? These guys that go out, like have a fair understanding about hunting, but don't actually really know how to get themselves out of a shitty situation. And it was hard to get a number, but they reckon roughly 2 fatalities a year, which is actually less than what I was
a
expecting.
year.
Yeah.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
Still,
2.
for how many people? They only get 3,000 hunters a year on the place.
Yeah, okay. Well, that puts your averages up pretty high then, doesn't it?
Bloody oath.
Yeah. I mean, that was me pushing for it. I'm talking to chat, so it's not like it's the
But it's
best
still
place, but it's pulling
it's
from
still that
DOC.
they're there.
Yeah.
There is fatalities is a big enough wake up call. I'd
Mm.
say a few people probably drown on
Because
that.
spearfishing pretty big off of there too, right?
Oh yeah, that's like the best fishing I've ever had in my life there, and I only did like half a day. The other boys were out there all the time.
On the tinnies or just off of
Yeah,
the
yeah. So the blue cod. So now we go the Kelly's block where it's great for seafood. So you got your pawa or abalone. It's the same stuff, isn't it? Everyone says it's the same thing.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not
Big
sure.
shell,
Big,
shit
yeah.
inside. You got to belt the shit out of it for it to taste any good, because it's hard as a gumboot or something like that. We didn't eat any of that because we didn't have any dive gear.
Yeah.
But lots of people go diving there. There's Oyster Cove, which is full of oysters in the sand. They're not rock oysters, so the big dinner plate oysters in the sand in the
Yes, how
cove.
good.
So it's too cold to dive 3 meters down to the bottom and sip through the sand without goggles. And then we ate, there's heaps of snails and pippies and everything else. Like I've never eaten sea snails before, but I ate a few there and they were delicious. Like they were awesome. So
Like big ones or little small ones?
no, like
The
3
small little
inches.
spiral ones. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So
Dude, I was down at my little, like I live in the bay, and I was down there the other day, and these Asians came down. They filled up this little esky, like a little, literally like a tucker box that you take to work, sort of thing. They got it and they just filled it up with these little spiral snails, and they shook it all out, got all the dirt out of it, and they just walked off. They're happy as.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. I think you only eat the muscle bit. There's a big green turd that comes out the back of the shell with them,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the muscle bit at the front is delicious. Yeah. So the boys bought like it would have been 2 kilos of shells back one day. They picked off the ground in low tide,
All right.
and then the blue cod. So, um, Camo, he was like found a trap, so he thought he'd bait the trap with a bit of meat. So he caught 4 possums in a row till he caught all the possums that were there. And they're all black, I think, these possums. But they went out fishing, and so they're little. It's like a little pube on a hook. There's these black fluff with a bit of meat on it off this possum, and we're catching the blue cod on dead possum meat
No
and
way.
venison. Yeah, we bought these scented lures. The boys recommended. The other guys had lures. There's the boys. These cod were that easy to catch there. They caught them on paracord with a hook on it. Paracord, and they were catching these blue cod, and then these other fish, I don't know what they are. They got teeth on them like a parrotfish, like savage. You wouldn't want to bite it. They leave fair good holes in them. They'd just go nuts. Like it was every cast you were pulling in fish. And if you hit
That's crazy.
the right weed spot, so we weren't even in deep water. It might have been 5 to 10 meters. Not some spots it would have been 2 meters. So the big wheat beds, the cod are next to the weed beds, and you just run past them. And Deno had a setup from we don't even know whose the setup was, and he had 4 or 5 hooks on it, and he got 4 cod all size
What?
in one pull. I think one of them was undersized, and the rest of them were all size, and they got to be
That's
35
incredible.
centimeters overall. And yeah, on that, and then so we ate 2 days there. We ate full two. We were full
Yeah,
cod. So there was some left for lunch the next day, or crumbed and battered. It was
that's hectic.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
were you fishing of the morning and then hunting of afternoon? Is that kind of how it played out? Because you keep talking
Well,
about night and not so much about the mornings.
I was the only one seeing deer, so to
Yeah, wow.
start with. So the boys were starting to do uh more. They were doing a few spots, but they sort of weren't getting in a groove and being consistent, being in the same spot, having
Mm,
the cameras up, picking high activity. So there's some of the guys didn't see deer till the end. So I ended up seeing I think 7 or 8 deer, and maybe 3 of those with other blokes with
mm.
me. But I can't remember. I think we saw 20 something all up, and we ended
Yeah,
up
okay.
shooting 7. Would have got
All right.
8, but
And you're the only
didn't
bow hunter?
recover. No, Camo got one. He got one with a bow. So he's a young fella from Victoria.
Yeah.
He ended up shooting an ancient doe. I've never seen a deer this old, like proper down to the gums, skin and bones doe.
Wow.
Yeah, and he shot her. They finally these guys found a spot I think on the 6th, 7th day, full of these broadleaf trees. Open the big trees in the area died off, so it opened up. A
Hmm.
couple of good trees, and the doe walked down between 2 of them. And so one's looking one way and one's looking the other. And then Camo had seen this doe coming down behind Deno. Deno's looking down towards these other broadleaves. So Camo smashed this doe 10 meters behind Camo. Camo smashed the doe 10 meters behind Deno.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they brought it back. But then when we looked at it, she was ancient, just skin and bone. And it was proper good trophy, like this ancient old doe.
Yeah.
And then Deno ended up shooting on the last hunt on the last full day, shot a buck from that spot as well. Or the
Oh,
second
mate.
last day, he shot a buck from that spot. So, yeah, it was, but yeah, Camo said if he goes back again, he'll take a rifle with him.
Yeah.
But he saw a few deer too. I think because of the nature of the way we hunt as bow hunters, we're just a bit
Definitely.
quieter
Yeah.
and we sit a bit stiller because you got to be. Yeah, another day I was in a tree on that quiet note, and this doe, I can assume it was a doe, come up behind me, and she heard my collar rub
No
as
way.
I turned my head and was out of there.
So you just saw a tail running.
I heard her, so I'm looking over my shoulder with the old sideways eye. trying to move my bow, but not because I know it's going to make a sound.
Hmm.
And just as I moved, and I think my chin rubbed on my collar, she's just straight up, full alert, looking around, but I'm above her at about 10 degrees angle. She's below me. She looked around for a bit, probably 2 seconds, looked to where the track she was on was going, and then just beelined out of there. And as soon as she was out of sight, I couldn't hear her. It's crazy that they sound so much like the natural sound of the bush that you have to associate that sound visually as well.
Mm.
So she would have been still making sound while she was running away.
Yeah.
But without me seeing her foot hit the ground or her rubbing on a
Fired in.
fern, I couldn't pick it. Yeah, that was crazy.
So is spot and stalk like completely out? It's not a thing.
Oh, it is in some places
Hmm.
we couldn't see more than. Well, I thought I had a spot where I could see 100 meters, and then I didn't range it. One of the boys come down and ranged it. It was 40 meters. That was the best.
Yeah,
So
far out.
not on that block. Other blocks, yes. You
Hmm.
can walk onto them. There's open tussock beach country. They come out and eat the seaweed and do whatever.
Huh.
You can stalk them on there. The Hunters Club Kiwi boys put up a good video, and a couple of them walked onto some then.
Yeah.
Um, but your best chance is find the high traffic or broadleaf trees.
Hmm. So the
And I
broad,
think,
I was gonna
yeah,
say the broadleaf trees. That you said that's like their main diet apart from the seaweed.
yeah,
Then.
yeah. When they cut their guts open, that's majority of their stomach
Yeah.
contents.
Wow.
And there's berries when they're in season, and then there's the stinkwood. There's another type of broadleaf, but that green, lush, round broadleaf, they love it. So I
Hmm.
think the only thing I can give an example to is I went for a walk with Steve Colley one day in the drought, and
Hmm.
we were hunting pigs, and he's got those big cactus. You know, you get the cactus up there on the border country,
Yeah.
and so they were fruiting, and it was dead drought. So that's the only thing for the pigs to eat. So the pigs were moving from cactus to cactus to cactus, hoping a fruit had dropped while they weren't there. So
Far
that's
out.
what the deer are doing with these trees.
Yeah.
After a windstorm, they're mowing up the leaves at each tree, and they probably know the prevailing winds, and they'll know which trees are going to produce leaves after which rain events and which wind from which direction.
Hmm.
So then they would that would be the way to pattern them. But that's, I'm guessing, other than my disturbance, they're doing laps of certain tree
Yeah.
paths,
Yeah.
mowing the leaves up and they're doing it based on what wind is where, what trees are positioned where. So they get a southerly, they know that the trees on that southern facing ridge over there are going to drop leaves, so they'll be there, and then they're not. And then there's deer at another spot. And that's what the boys were finding. They were there and then they were not. Or we get the same weather for 3 or 4 days in a row. They had deer there 3 or 4 days in a row, and then they had none for the next three. And it's that. So um, you've got to it'd be hard to pattern them in that sense, but it's also hard to find fresh sign because the whole joint's muddy all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it looks
Definitely.
like it's fresh, but it's not. They could have been there. But the best thing you got is sticky scat. You're finding scat. So
And so in regards to whitetail and the rut, like I'm assuming it would be April, same as kind of the
May, when we were there, we were
May.
the peak rut. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
wow.
May, March to June, from what I've read, is any can happen, but there's
Uh-huh.
no vocals. Um, the does do make sound. I heard the sound of a doe calling to its fawn,
Mm.
but other than that, there's no rutting sounds. You just gotta hope there's a buck tailing a doe or running his scrapes. And
But they are active on scrapes.
yeah, so that scrape that they didn't go to after I put the camera on it and
Mm.
walked through that area, when I stopped, when I took the camera off it, he went back to it like 4 days later. I took two cameras over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
The
they do,
scrapes are just like your fallow.
yeah, but on like a 10%
Yeah,
level.
wow.
They're just scratching. It's like a chicken's been under a tree and just scratched a little pad, and they don't break branches because there's nothing on that. Like if they got a good mature buck, they probably will.
Hmm.
But the majority where we were, they were button bucks or little forkies. We got a couple of forkies on camera.
Mhm.
So they got only like 6 inches of antler, so they're not going to do much damage, and they're not that big. So you're not going to see a massive tree destroyed. It's just like a little bare patch of dirt scratched away and some little thin branches above it broken. And then on the rub trees, they're very similar to chittle rub. So
Mm.
they're like they pick this one tree that's orange, like they get on I think the salmon gums or something that the
Yeah.
chittle get on, and they leave a nice oval orangey exposed bark. That's what the whitetail do, and they're really low too. They're not rubbing at chest
Oh,
or waist or anything. They're rubbing in the bottom foot and a half of the tree,
no
sort
way.
of like half a foot off, and then they really get down low when they're doing it. So, and I that's why based on where I found that buck sign is what I did most of the time. I could found that I put my whole path that I hunted was generally following that trail from the initial first sighting, just pushing deeper and deeper as I went, but never saw that, didn't see or get on camera the buck that was proper rubbing those trees.
Yeah,
But
wow.
nothing. Yeah.
So the 7 deer that was shot over the week that you guys were there, did you say one person got a buck?
Yeah, I got a couple. The boys got little ones,
Yeah.
like young, like yearlings.
Hmm.
But yeah, Deno got one with actual buttons on its head.
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
So just little tiny stubs
Yeah.
for antlers. And it was probably a 3-year-old deer maybe by looking at its teeth. Hard
Yeah.
to tell because of that environment because you don't know their jaw. So
Mm.
the deer stalkers mob, not the deer stalkers, the Stewart Island, whatever the deer association is, they'll age them and they like you to clean up the jaws and send them back. So we had a handful of
Mm.
jaws cleaned up, ready to drop in um, but they got a PO box. They don't have a mailbox, so you can't drop them in. You got to pay, go to the post office and pay for them to walk from the counter over to the post office box. Anyway, we got distracted with alcohol and we forgot to do it.
Didn't
So
happen. So what
no.
is the system in regards to because you said that they track it to some degree of how many kills go through. What's
Yeah, so on the doc website, you've got to put a claim form in to say how
uh-huh.
many deer were shot out of your hunting party.
Yeah.
So you put in a report, and then that's logged, and you can go through and look up how many deer were shot
Mm.
so that you can go through and see what block produces the most deer. Um, there's records kept on the deer, so you can see what trophies were taken from each block on
Mhm.
this uh forget what it's called, the group that look after this. And then they do the ages on what's shot. I would have been really nice to know how old the doe was. Like she was proper old. So
Mm.
that would have been an interesting thing to
You
find. So
you're pretty knowledgeable about deer in general, but do you know like species to species how much they differ in age, like what they can live to?
I don't know what those whitetail do, but a mature whitetail in the States it's like 6, I think. They
Yeah,
mature
wow.
way earlier than the fallow. They're not like they don't live to 12 or 14 years like ours possibly
Mm.
can. Yeah, they've got half the life of the European deer, I think.
Yeah, far out.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that they shoot them between the age of 3 and 6.
And
That's your good time.
um uh, question I forgot. It's all good. Yeah,
But
it
I
happens.
would have been nice to see something like that, but yeah, I
That's
think
what it was.
I reckon they need to release. Uh, they need to go and release a heap of new genetics into
Definitely.
the island to
Yeah.
change it. Yeah. So
The old doe that you guys shot, did you eat her at all? Was
no, we didn't need to either. When we
yeah.
got it down there and we looked at her, we had 2 yearlings sitting next to her. So we're like,
Okay.
we cut all the usable meat off. We had this, I use a recipe for deer here, like all the legs, because it
Hmm.
works well. I can make packs for lunch. So I got like a lamb shanks or a rosemary and
Yeah.
garlic or whatever. So we made a massive big stew with kilos of meat and just slow cooked it on top of we did it on the flame to get it 3/4 cooked and then sat it while we all went hunting
Okay.
on top of the potbelly stove.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used like a kilo of bacon, half a kilo of bacon, a couple of kilos of meat, a few tins of tin tomato and salt, pepper, and then a heap of the, like pretty much most of it yearling except for the back straps in this
Yeah,
whole
wow.
pot. And then we did that twice. It was like awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
mad big feeds. Everyone ate it too. It was good. We're so hungry. It was good in that sense, that cabin. They supply the LPG, so you can have LPG burners. The hunting club had spent a heap of money and got a heap of gear,
Yeah, that's
cooking
awesome.
utensils and stuff. You can take whatever. Like they say guys take fold up sinks and everything.
Right.
There's rainwater tanks on all the cabins, and they say don't drink it, but
Mm.
that's the legal don't drink it. Like there's nothing wrong with it. So
Yeah.
we did take water over in case we went to drink it and it tasted
Funny or
stinky
something. Yeah.
nasty, like there's stuff dead in it. But
Yeah.
it's completely sealed up. Like they've siliconed the downpipes. It's
Mm.
unless something dies in the gutter, it can't get into the tank.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clean. So that's a pretty good setup. And the toilet there is a long drop, and from experience, leave the doors open. They don't like leave the lid down, but leave the door open. There's no mozzies. It doesn't stink
Yeah.
when you go to use it, and the door's in there, and you get in there, and it's just stinky long drop, whatever. So you just peg the door open, leave the lid down. It's just a fiberglass shell that they drop onto the hole.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you go in there as a tip, wedge the door open, and when you get in there, it's nice and fresh. So yeah, it's bloody good.
Yeah.
And we just that was about all for the
What's your
cabin.
what was your carry limit to get over in the sense of like,
Oh, we all got extra luggage. I
yeah,
got
okay.
extra. I didn't know what I was coming back with then because I was taking enough to sleep. Until I got there, and it's different from different blokes. I was thinking I was going to hike in 2 or 3 Ks and then spike
Camp
camp.
up. Yeah, got
But
you.
once I was finding deer in early and realized there's no point to it, it
Mm.
doesn't matter. I'm going into places that there was no evidence of reflective tape. Maybe one bloke in every 5 or 10 hunting groups would go in that far. The rest
Yeah.
only go in shallow. It didn't matter. They're all just fast, them bastards, and they can heal extremely well. So with that fishing as well too, if you go over, try and get a bloke that can do diving because you'll eat like kings. There's crayfish
Freaking
there
hell.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got if you can get a deer on the deck, and then you got crays, blue cod,
5
abalone,
meters diving, like
oysters.
that's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah,
On field day.
yeah, and I think there's big kelp banks there as well. I don't know if that's where the crays are, but the abalone just everywhere. Like even when the tide was super low, you can see all the small ones all through the rock cracks, and you know that just down further where they haven't been able to get all the big ones, there's got to be more. Like it's a good time. It's good food. Yeah. One thing
That's
we
awesome.
had with the tinny, the boys, Josh come back to the tinny one day and then had a confrontation with a seal. I think the seal was a bit toey
Yeah.
and wanted a bit of action from Josh. So it's just eyeballing him while it's swimming around in the water near the tinny. And then as he started to get over the tinny, he'd get a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And then as he walked out the water, it got out of the water and stood up and faced him. He's like, oh, fuck this. Yelling as he's running away from the seal. Yeah, they got big teeth, them buggers.
Yeah, freaking
I don't know whether it'd been fed or not, but it was a random seal that just showed up, wanted some action. And the tide up and where we were was the cove was so shallow that when the tide went out, this is what hurt me back to. It wasn't good for I didn't hurt is dragging the tinnies in and out all
Oh
the
yeah, of
time.
course. Yeah.
So if you don't want to get wet, you can peg them up somewhere, double rope them so they're in the middle, but you'll have
Mm.
to wade out waist deep at high tide or chest deep to go and get them so they're still in the water, or you
Yeah.
drag them up the beach every time. And so when the boys went out, they parked up at high tide, and when they come back, their tinny's just sitting on rocks 30 meters from the water, and it's dark. It's like they have to drag it. And that happened to one of them when they were by themselves.
Oh
So he's
no.
like grabbing logs, and I think he's putting sticks down to drag it across.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not light. They're not light tinnies. They're full. The edges of them are boxed in so that they float if they capsize.
Yeah,
So
cool.
instead of having the foam under the seats, yeah, they're proper box section right around the sides that you can sit
Mm.
on. Yeah.
And so everyone just took over their own rods and stuff?
Yeah, I grabbed a foldable rod. I probably did the least fishing. I caught one blue cod and that was it. I was done. Yeah, that
You're
paid
done.
for me rod,
Happy.
everything. I
Yeah.
was like, I caught a few more than that, I think, but The other boys went out 3 or 4 times. I just went out once. That was
Yeah.
it. I had to tick that box. But yeah, some took their rods in their gun cases because they could pull apart. They were that short. They were
Hmm.
in their gun cases. Honestly, you could probably catch them on a hand line.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
got them on paracord, get them on a hand line. At where we were, great weather, no swell or any wind. So we're in prime fishing time. And the
Mm.
fish there were just hungry
Yeah.
all the time. It could have been the possum. They may have found a new
Never had
delicacy.
that
Like they
before. Yeah,
loved it.
exactly.
Possum and venison, they frothed over it. Yeah.
Man, I took my daughter fishing not so long ago and I chucked some venison on. I was like, I don't have anything else in the freezer. I'll just chuck that on. And something huge hit her line. I don't know what it was, but she's like, Dad, I think something's on my line. This line like zzz,
Was it a
down the
stingray, was
estuary.
it?
I
Or
think it
no?
probably was, yeah. A stingray or a big catfish in the estuary.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
never
that
pulled it in. It snapped the line.
oh right, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. So we took bags of gear. Some of the boys had heaps of lures and everything else. And at the end of the day, we just needed more hooks.
Yeah,
That was
wow.
it. Yeah, yeah. So it was just catch them on anything. It
And then
was
what about like obviously you said you took water, you took food and stuff down with you guys. What's the carry limit on the boat? Do they have a weight limit
oh
for you?
no, it's not really. There's no weight limit. This is
Yeah.
he's like can carry tons and tons on this boat.
Yeah,
So
wow.
there's he'll the sort of you get depends how many groups go, but I think 2 is the max group numbers for like things you can take in his containers that
Hmm.
you put your stuff in. So it's not really a weight limit. No.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. His high ab looked like it could handle 2 ton. I don't know what its working load was, so it can lift it. That boat can carry it. That boat could probably carry 10 ton. I don't know. It's just, yeah, a big commercial um, cat type boat. Yeah. It looks like a crayfishing or fishing boat, like it's that commercial
Mm,
looking with a big back, sort of 5 or 6 meters square back flat deck with the high ab on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so doing it again, would you go back to Kelly's again?
Oh, I wouldn't care where I go. Yeah, I'd go
Yeah.
back there again. Um, I'd probably take compound. Yeah, I just think
You got the distance.
they're just too quick. No, it's
Yeah.
just the
The
speed. They
speed.
just
Got you.
yeah yeah. Um, that 2 shots they just did me on speed.
Mm.
They were out of there before the arrow got there. So
Have you ever done a test of speed on your bow?
no, no.
That would be interesting to know.
I'd say it's well under 200 feet a second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So it like even I noticed this year in the rut, the longbow was super slow. I had a deer watch the arrow. It was like the Matrix. This buck just watched it and rolled its shoulder and then dropped and
Yeah.
literally watched the arrow out of the corner of its eye go over its back, its shoulder as it dropped. I was like, you bastard. I watched it all in slow
I was
mo.
going to say, it's hectic that
It
you're
was
that
like,
close to be able to see it all too, like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it knew I was there, but that was just with the longbow. It was super evident during the rut, the speed difference from the recurve to the longbow. And so by
Mm.
the end of the rut, um, I had to have a deer that was I had to completely surprise it with a shot. They were gonna if they knew I was there, there's no hope of getting it. I had
Mm.
three bucks jump the string. So that's compounded over there. You can make it happen. There's a guy shot a cracking little buck. He's a guy's just popped up. He's a trad shooter from New Zealand. He shot a red deer
What's his name?
recently. Oh, I
Not
can't.
Poldy.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got him teed up for when he's back. He's actually on this dude, he's crazy. He's on this he's in Norway doing kayaking down like the big waterfalls and stuff where they do
All
like
right, yeah,
literally off
yeah,
their ledges into the yeah.
yeah. So
Crazy.
he hunted out of Oban, out of town, and nailed this cracking buck. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll have to
So
ask him about when I get him on.
yeah, there is. I think Kelly's and a few others blocks have people on it all the time. If I
Mm,
went back, I'd want a Maori block probably if I
yeah.
had a choice. But the Maori blocks cost you
Hmm.
thousand, like $1,500 or something, whereas Kelly's block, your cost is $30 per person for the hut. So
Wow. That's so cheap. And that's it. That's your only
yeah,
outlay. What about
that's
like a
it.
license or something to be there?
No, no, that's part
Nothing.
of it. Yeah, you just
Yeah, wow.
I'm not sure on that. I went to look for that before we did that just to make sure. I don't know what else there is, but if you get a block with a hut, you pay a fee for the hut, $30 per person. Maori blocks are like $1,500, so you add that to a $5,000 ferry ride.
Yeah, it becomes
And
pretty costly.
yeah, so it becomes costly. So you want 6 to 7 blokes, and you want they do up to 15 days. But I would want a Mary block just purely because they're not as hectic. The
Yeah,
deer are probably much quieter. You got more chance of bigger deer.
definitely not getting
Um,
hunted every day. Makes a big
yeah,
difference.
yeah.
Yeah. And would you go with more or less guys? 6, 7 is a pretty good
Oh no,
number.
that was fine. Yeah, it's you could be hunting 200 meters apart from each other in that country. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
that.
okay.
It's that. It's hard to describe it. How the it's not like a rainforest, but it's got the vines of a rainforest, but the trees and the bracken fern of say one of those coastal woodlands that we get here on the east coast down the south, where they get the grass trees and the ferns and then the black
Mhm.
boys and the big gums. It's like that, but and it's crossed between that and a rainforest as well because you get the vines.
Yeah.
But it's not, and it is, you can hunt a ridge away from each other and see deer, or you won't. You can hear everyone shooting. You can hear every time a shot's
Yeah,
done.
okay. That was the next question. Yeah.
Yeah, you can, and if you watch that Hunters Club one, um, with the fellas, you just see them stop and go, oh, someone just got a deer, because they could hear the gunshot because they're that close to each other. So
Yeah.
only one time they didn't hear a gunshot with us, but that's because they were at the hut and or they're on the tinny on the way back. But if you're all out in the bush, you'll hear a gunshot from all the other boys, and you'll hear gunshots from the neighbouring blocks as well.
Mm.
So they're that close and it's that quiet. Yeah, it's
Did you load up a Venza or anything like that?
no, I just wanted to be an old school tough bastard and get lost. No,
Pulling some
yeah,
gullies and stuff.
yeah, I just followed sign. That's my thing was they gotta eat,
Makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
find these trees, find their footprints, find their shit, find their scrapes, and then work that from the coast inland, find quite a deer.
Hmm.
And it did pay off because I saw the most deer out of any of the fellas. But I did the most Ks
Hmm.
and I didn't shoot anything. So it doesn't matter. But
So
I would
we,
have.
we we actually went into this, but we didn't really delve into it that much. I asked about the morning hunts before, and you said you were the one that saw the most deer, but then we only
Yeah.
talked about nighttime hunting. Was morning hunting just not much of a thing, or?
No, you got way less chance of seeing them. So they're
Mm.
nocturnal a lot of the time because of the hunting pressure, I think.
Hmm.
So your better chance is that late afternoon. Yeah, I did see deer in the morning that one day, and some of the other guys did see deer in the morning that bumped them or bump them in the middle of the day,
Yep.
but they're not as active in their feeding as they are in that late afternoon,
Hmm.
nighttime.
So there's no
Yeah.
point going out and staying out all day just sitting on a tree.
Oh, they're probably, yeah, it's just cold and wet.
Yeah, got you. And you've got
Midgey's,
good fishing down the hill, so
yeah, so it's they've always got one there on camera where the doe comes in and beds underneath the stump and near where the like this whole area's just got no vegetation, it's just mud because of the amount of leaves that must fall off this tree and it gets eaten so much. So they got her. She come in the middle of the day and sat down and bedded 12 in the middle of the day and just bedded for an hour or two
hmm,
in against a log in that feeding area. And so they are there, but everyone says you just why waste when you can sleep in,
mm,
go fishing, the whole island experience, and then hunt those last 3 hours. So I
yeah,
would have hunted all day, but you can't do it quietly, and you get bored sitting for if you're going to sit for
freaking
12
oath.
hours, yeah. And you don't want
That,
to sit for 2 hours here and then 2 hours there and then 2 hours there. Ideally, you're best sitting in one spot for 12 hours.
yeah,
Like you could move and miss the deer every time.
exactly. Or bump them
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
Move them
So
on. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, like I've said it a few times, sitting for 12 hours a day, that doesn't interest me much at all.
No, I after doing that though over there, I'm tossing up whether I make a stand here on one of my blocks because I got a really cracking saddle. They come over from the neighbours
Yeah.
and they come out a thick scrub through the fence into the openness of my block. And after doing that there, I'm like, maybe I could do it, but I'll do the opposite. I would get in there in the dark and get the morning when the
Hmm.
bucks are real active in the morning, come
Yeah.
in. After doing it over there. But yeah, let's all all evidence and all opinions point towards the last 3 hours of daylight.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
want to truly enjoy. And
I'm
then
good.
it gets dark early. You got low daylight hours, so it's dark at oh, it's not that dark because it's dark at 6. Well and truly dark by 6 o'clock. So you're in the hut. There's not much to do. We're all going to bed at 8 and 8:30.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Yeah. There's so
sleeping
much.
till like 6:37 in the morning. You're getting 10 hours sleep. No one can
How
get that
good.
back at home.
No,
So
exactly. Take it in what you can.
yeah, and I in the hut it's so hot, and I got one of the bunks because I was like, no, I won't go in the hut. I'll take my tent and sleep outside. Then 2 other guys set up the tents. I'm like, oh, there's spare bunks. I'll go in the bunk. So I got one of the top bunks. I didn't even sleep in my sleeping bag a single night. I just slept on top of the mattress. The rooms come with a mattress for each bed that you stand up, so no mice or anything. You wipe everything down when you leave. But you flatten them down. So I slept on top of the mattress with my sleeping bag, that like vinyl parachute material, as a bit of a sheet cover for every night. And I was
Yeah.
still
So good.
sweating. Yeah,
No
no,
way.
I was just in my jocks,
That's
just lying there.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't like sweating when I'm sleeping.
Yeah, I like to be cold, like,
Yeah.
and so
So
some of the other guys that were on the bottom bunks, they weren't as hot, but yeah, I was at the top and I was cooking.
clocking
So
it. Yeah.
even in the morning, but that is out of the whole trip, the best part of that whole trip was having no phone.
Yeah. Of
Everything.
course.
So I only took the inReach. I didn't even was going to use GPS in the bush. I'm glad I took it because it would have been upsetting. I would have had a pretty few rough nights sleep in the mud with the
Yeah.
possum. But I took it so I could text the missus
Yeah.
each night and just say, yeah, no deer,
Still
no deer,
safe. Yeah. Yeah.
no deer,
Exactly.
no deer. Yeah, caught a fish today. That's
Yeah.
more shocking than missing the deer. So, um, and I just texted it, but the no phone is just like you
Spring.
get up. This is your day, and imagine if you had a day like this. Some people in this environment may have a day like this, but I highly doubt it. And multiple in a row. You get up in the morning and you have one thing to do or 3 things to do: eat, shit, and hunt.
Yeah.
That's it.
Pretty
So you
decent.
get up, you make a coffee, and you walk outside and you look at the ocean. You drink your coffee. You ask old mate, how'd you sleep? Oh yeah, it's good. Whatever. If it was Adam, Adam drank 3/4 of a bottle of like $100 spirits one night. We all wake up to him sleeping in the middle of the floor, and he was in his tent, and he don't even remember. This is waking up after a bad day, after a bad night. He spewed. He woke up cold and wet,
Oh.
and he'd worked out. He'd just redecorated the entire inside of his tent, including his clothes bag
Wow. Oh,
and everything.
no.
And he had my Z Light, which is a foam mattress. It's got holes in it, and it's little scoops, like eggshell looking. So it's got spew all through it. The tent spew all through it. His
It's actually
clothes, he
now a
got
flatbed, just all
yeah,
along
he got
it.
spew everywhere. It looks like death, feels like death. And then he went in his tent to clean it out, and he's nearly got it clean, and then he just spews up again while he's cleaning it.
Oh no. All self-inflicted though, so
Oh, but that you wake up and have a coffee, and then it's like, next question is, am I going to eat breakfast now, or am I going to eat it in half an hour
yeah.
or an hour, or where am I going to take a piss? Like, there's no phones. There's no,
So
I've got to get
good.
up and go to work. I've got to go do this. I've got to do this. It's like at some point in that day, you're going to go for a hunt and you're going to eat. And
It's a good life.
after 1 or 2 days is nice, but after 6 or 7 in a row, that you get a proper reset.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
and it's low stress because you're comfortable. So it's not like going, it's it's not like you're going, say, backcountry hunting for a week, or if you go to the States and hunt elk or Alaska or something like that. It's proper comfort in the same note because you're in a cabin, you've got heating, your clothes can be dried every night. So you're not pulling on wet boots,
Yeah.
especially if you take waterproof socks. you pull your boots on. If they are wet, you don't notice. You're not putting on wet clothes every day.
Hmm.
You're eating well, you're sleeping on a good bed, you're putting good clothes on, and then there's nothing else to worry about. So come three-quarters of the way through, like you're just decompressed. Everything is you're full. You don't think about anything else, and you have one focus, two focuses for the day. That's
Yeah.
it. It's crazy.
Yeah. If they weren't sold already, then they definitely are now.
Yeah, I want to go back for that.
Dude,
Like I don't
definitely.
even need to kill a deer. I still like to see some and hunt, but that alone was by far the best experience out of the whole thing. Like
Hmm.
I've done other week long and been away for hunts for that long before, but not where you don't have to think about your survival at the same time, or
Definitely.
yeah, you're not uncomfortable. So it's super good in that regard. And then the only thing weird, and a couple of blokes were saying it by like the seventh or eighth night, they started having dreams about being somewhere else. It's like your brain's, hey, buddy, there's a
Yeah.
you
Come
you do
on. You
you
gotta
do
go.
exist elsewhere in the world. It was
Notifications.
like,
Let's go. Yeah.
yeah. It was like had to remind you that there is other things. So
Dude, I've been working on a contract recently with a company in the States, and a lot of the time that they talk to me is between like 4 and 7 a.m. I'm up at 4 a.m. anyway, but I'm usually going to the gym and stuff. But now it's the first thing I'm doing is checking my phone and being like all involved. And I'm like, fuck, like it's crazy what extra stress that can bring onto you as well. Because
yeah,
usually I used to not touch my phone till 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that. But now I've had to just because of this extra contract that I've taken on. I'm like, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. It's good, but it's also I don't know if it's worth it.
yeah, you get excited about content too, like even doing this, the pressure of releasing a podcast every week or 2 weeks is that undue pressure about communicating with people. So you have to talk to all your guests. But
Mm,
and we've been going what for three
it's been all.
weeks
This is
back and
probably
forth.
as difficult as it gets though, because of the schedules and whatever.
Yeah, we just nothing lines up and all and none of that. Nothing. That it is just zero. You don't have to put fuel in your car.
I was
You
going to
don't
say
have
you
to
don't have to
buy
look after kids, don't have to
groceries.
do any of that, right? Like in regards to the logistics of a day,
Yeah.
like yeah, very different.
And you're too trashed at night to think about women. So it's just like I'm sure that would build up over time, but yeah, by the end of it, because you're so knackered after you get after your hunt and you have a few brews, you just go straight to sleep. So it's all right.
And so costings like for you for the whole trip, what was
Couple of
it?
grand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. So after we left the island, um, we we spent 2 nights in Queenstown, which was great. So
That's a
we got
sick
a
place. Yeah.
Airbnb. It just reminds me, I've been in New Zealand 4 times now, and I'm like, oh, got to get back. Like, you want to
Yeah.
go straight back. It's just any people. It's not underrated. People tell you every time how beautiful New
Oh,
Zealand's landscape
100%.
is,
Yeah.
and it's one of them things. Until someone goes there and sees it, they don't really know how much like it's unmatched to anything in this country. We don't have that
Mm.
beautiful Swedish looking
No,
mountains
definitely.
and
Mountains
snow, and we
onto the
don't have
water and
that.
just yeah,
So it was,
glassy water.
yeah,
Dude, my favorite place in the world, like one of my favorite places in the world I've been to is Queenstown by far. Like, just it's so amazing. And this is before I did hunting or anything like that. Like, I haven't gone back to New Zealand since I've been hunting, so I'm very excited to get back there eventually.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's got everything for you, eye candy
mm.
wise, like your mountains and that beautiful lake, and
Yeah,
then the
crystal clear.
houses and what they've built, and
Yeah,
there's just yeah, froth on. So we got a Airbnb, got back, put tents out, all our gear went through the wash.
yeah,
Everyone
cool.
got to fully decompress after the hunt and get back in. It wasn't just bang, bang, bang back on a plane, get
Exactly.
back into
Get
the
home and have to
country.
scramble to get your stuff ready before you go back into work and whatever.
Yeah, and yeah, it was really nice. It was quite. We didn't have anything planned. We just went down and got a feed and stuff. Went
Yeah,
out that
good.
night, had a few games of pool and some drinks and stuff, and then it was yeah, it was awesome. We went to the deer park. I'd been to Queenstown 20 years ago, but I didn't know this deer park's been there for years, which has some big red deer and tar and chamois and
Like just outside of Queenstown
Goats.
there,
Yeah,
or is it?
literally just outside.
Yeah,
Like it is part of Queenstown. If it wasn't a park, a private property, it would be um, housing. Like
yeah.
it's the hill on the other side of the lake when you're looking southeast from Queenstown when you're looking back towards Dunedin. So
Yeah, okay.
it's I think it's 12 or 1600 acres or 1200 acres maybe. It goes right up this hill. You drive up it. Chinese tourists everywhere parking on the roads, not knowing how to drive properly on those tracks, so just getting in the way. Yeah, but massive deer and
I feel like you
plenty of
drive
carp.
past it to go to one of the snowfields. I remember
Uh,
driving past like
or
a
you
high
will
fence.
you drive past the turnoff if you're going to the Remarkables.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you cross the river, just past the weir of the thing,
Yes.
you
Yep.
cross
I think
that
about the same
bridge, you
place.
turn one way and it's the hill, and then when you're winding the little goat track up to cross over the Remarkables range, if you
Mm-hmm.
look back across, it's a little lump just in front of the
Yeah.
lake.
Yeah.
So it's well worth a visit. Yeah, it's it's a good way to end that trip there. It
Yeah,
was
I can
pretty
imagine.
cool. And then
That is a very relaxing way to end a trip, right? Like I think about every time I get home from a hunt and I'm just scrambled because I literally hunt until the very last time that I can, and then I get back and I have to work the next day. So I was like, you get
yeah,
home, you're chucking all your shit in, trying to just get it clean and sorted out, whilst trying to
and
also say hi to the family and do whatever. It's like, yeah, it's always a
And
scramble.
it's physical when you hunt on a weekend. You go push your guts out the whole time, and then you come back and you
Exactly.
don't get a
Yep.
rest. You get a
Yep.
bit of time on the boat coming out, and I didn't turn my phone on to off airplane mode till I actually stepped ashore. I
Yeah.
was like,
So good.
we are getting service halfway back, and I was like, nah, nah, nah. But yeah, you get a bit of time. You get a couple of hours on the boat. So depending how far around the island you go, depends how long you're
Mm.
on the boat. It could be 4 or 5 hours to the bottom,
Yeah.
or
Wow.
two. We were halfway down, so it's about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
So
Yeah.
on the back end of it, is there anything that you'd change in regards to how it played out for you guys?
No, everything went really well. There's nothing we didn't need, nothing we didn't. So
Hmm.
the heat packs, waterproof socks, must get waterproof socks. They are unbelievable. If you don't get any water down the top of them, you can put wet boots on every day and you wouldn't even know it. The only
Yeah,
thing
wow.
is when you're in a cold, windy environment, your boots are truly wet. My boots stayed dry till I fell off the front of the boat after we were fishing. Because I didn't, the boys were wearing barefoot or thongs out, but when you do that and the water temp's 10 degrees and you're putting your
Mm,
feet on the bottom of the aluminium boat, you're not
cold
having
real
a good
quick.
time.
Yeah.
It's cold. So, camp booties, Pat Tidings got me onto the camp booties when we went to the West Coast. So I mentioned to the boys, and I was the only one who actually didn't have any camp booties, but I was too hot to wear them anyway. Is they're just a slip on, like cotton filled bloody foam nylon booty, like a
Mm.
slipper, and they're waterproof because they're nylon. They
Yeah.
keep your feet warm, so you traipse around out in the wet grass or whatever in these little slip-on camp booties. So
No way.
take camp booties, you can get them off. They're like $4 on the
Mm.
internet. The heat packs, the reflective rope or tape or thumbtacks. I found the rope was awesome. The rope was unbelievable because you could see it from 360 degrees.
I feel like the
So
thumbtacks is too small.
no, you could see them. You could
You
see ones that
can?
have been there a while. Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
they're super reflective,
Yeah.
but you got to have them. You have to be looking at them within a sort of 90-degree window, otherwise
Mm.
they won't reflect at you.
Yeah.
But with the rope, the 6 inches of rope that you just tie in one knot, or even tie a knot on it and then slide it down into the wedge on a little shrub,
Hmm.
that you can be seen from any angle,
Yeah, exactly.
and it
Yeah.
dangles down like bloody glow in the dark snot at miles away. So it take that, take yeah, that's those key things in your wet weather gear, your layering system, um, compass. Make sure you got your maps for your phone with your Avenza, if you can do that, because it'll tell you where you are as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Your inReach or other. The boys had their rhinos, so they were talking to each other, and we'll
Hmm.
text them to each other with the inReaches if we got something like. Um, so lots of things like that. And as for in camp, just take what you would any other time, what you feel you need.
Yeah.
We use our jet boils to make cups of tea a couple of times. The rest of
Hmm.
the time we're using a kettle.
Yeah.
So we had an LPG burner there, so we used it. You can take, if you don't have LPG, use your little butane camping burners. And that's when we really want a nice bit of control or a smaller pot, we'd use the butane burners. So we had jet boil, top of the stove, LPG, and the butane.
Hmm. Yeah,
It had a wide variety. You've got room to take lots of stuff, but if you're traveling over and you haven't got anything, like the hunting club is a good thing for that. I haven't had
Mm.
much to do with it all. This was the only thing. We still haven't sent Paul photos, but he's got these packs that now looked after by Ian on that charter boat who stores them for the club.
No way.
So when you go there, the boys who were previously there should do a nice job and say if anything's broken. And we added stuff. We're like, oh, we needed a potato peeler. So we took potato peelers. So that went in.
Mhm.
We bought knives with their self-sharpening bloody knives. So that went into the kit as well. So it grew. So Paul's booking multiple blocks every year. And if you're in the club, that comes up as an offer. So I think it's $120 to join the hunting club. And he has those. So if you got no one to go with, if you join the hunting club and that option comes up, you just put
Pop
your
them
hand
up.
up.
No, good. I'm
Yeah,
actually, it's the membership I use just for my
insurance. Yeah,
insurance for a rifle and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So it's really good like that. And there's other perks. There's hunts drawn all the time. So
Yeah, they
for
do one
that
every
club,
month.
yeah. So it's a good thing if you want to go do Stewart and you don't have a group of friends and you want the gear that comes with it.
Mm.
It's really well organized. So
Yeah, that's
um,
incredible. And
and
you don't pay anything extra to them as such for that?
uh, no, you pay to hire the generator. It's like I don't even know
Yeah.
what the rate was, and you hire the utensils, and there's fixed rates for those. I don't know what the exact was. That was
Cheap though.
a cost that he'll give you, and it'll be divided up. So your
Yeah.
boats, that 5K we paid for the charter included our fuel,
Mm.
I think our coal and our tinnies, two tinnies. We got two tinnies so that we didn't have the boys again. Benny Solaris had said get two tinnies because some guys want to go fishing or some guys want to go hunting. So you got
Yeah.
to have two boats if you're on the coast. On a block where you have to transport to go hunting, we had to transport with the tinny to go hunting. Other blocks, everything's hunt from the hut.
Was
So
that every day you had to transport with the tinny?
yeah, our block's long and skinny. So
Yeah, got you.
we had a couple of Ks of cove right back into the block. So some of
Mm.
us would just hunt the start of it. I ended up walking up to where the boat was coming in nearly. Like I
Yeah.
was like 500 meters from where the boat was parking. So, but they went further again from that. So, yeah, you can use the boat to transport. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and on the way home, I was sitting in the airport. There's a few other hunters there. And I got on the plane out of Queenstown, and we landed on the way home. I went Queenstown, Auckland, Sydney, and this bloke stands up in front of me on the flight, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, I know that face. So look, and he's like wearing the hunting and fishing hat and a hunting and fishing jumper. I'm like, geez, he looks familiar. And it was Remy Warren.
Oh, no way.
So I'm like, Remy? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? You've been hunting some fellow because I watch his fellow hunts when he goes down near, like, because his block's down near Queenstown where he's got a private block down there where he had that guided hunt. So he wasn't wearing any name brand stuff, just wearing New Zealand generic hunting and fishing gear.
No,
I was
good.
like, so I just become the serial pest just then and chatted to him. But I got one of the hunting boys here, and I was quite a few blokes hunt with him, or
Mm.
have hunted with him, and know
Mm.
him on a personal level. So I just sent him a message. I said, I just name dropped you to
Yeah.
break to break the ice, and they're like, yeah, right. So I ended
Everyone
up.
says he's a very genuine dude.
Oh, he's just another one I asked. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we just started talking about hunting from then. We checked
How
off the
good.
plane, and I'm like, "You going to the international?" He's like, "Yeah." And he said to me, "Are you walking?" Said, "Yeah." Oh, he said, "I'm walking. Are you walking?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'm walking. I've got 3 hours." So got off there, walked to the next bloody airport. I'm like, said goodbye at security. I walked out of security. I went to have a piss. I walked out of the toilet and ran into him, like physically ran into each other at the toilet. They're like, they chatted again, and I'm like, yeah, right, I'll see you later. We're talking about deer and whatever. And we walked off separate ways, and then we walked back, ran into each other again, like half an hour later. So it's good. Oh, there's a highlight of the trip. It's good to meet people that, like you said, to see that he's just normal or
Mm.
he's genuine. There's no and I've been told that by heaps of people, and then to meet him and go, yeah, this guy's just one of us,
Dude. Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
proper normal bloke. I just annoyed him for 5 minutes. I didn't ask for any stupid photos or anything like that. I was just talking to you with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cool to meet someone and go, yeah, they're what they are when you
Mm,
like what they perceive, your perception of what somebody is, and then versus reality in majority of cases isn't the same. So
definitely.
it's refreshed. So when I'm like Graham Cahill's one where he is what he is.
Yeah.
When you hang out with Graham, he is what he is on TV. Like he's
Yeah.
the same dude. And it was cool to meet Remy and go, you are just that dude. If not, you're more humble and normal when
Mm,
you're not on camera and
on
stuff.
camera.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was
Well, that's
pretty
the thing. It's
cool.
like on camera they edit out so much as well, so they could be capturing a fair chunk of them. You don't actually get to see the other side, but yeah, like you said, like Graham, he's just hilarious. I had a great chat with him.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
good fun.
He's
We
just
still
as
message each
he
other,
is.
but yeah,
Yeah.
he is. It's straight that way. But yeah, have heard the exact same thing from Remy, and I think, I mean, it's funny back when I was I think the thing is you put people on a pedestal, right? And then you don't have to at all. Like they don't want to be put on a pedestal. They're not
No.
gonna like if you start to react and treat them that way, it's off-putting versus if you just talk to them like a normal person, they're gonna be like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
you don't
bye.
ever, you don't suck, don't, they don't want that, especially when you got to mindful that it's his free time. It's their
Yeah,
time. So when
exactly.
you're meeting them, unless you're going up to talk about free time stuff or
Mm,
stuff that they don't get exposed to, you just gotta, um, yeah, I just talked his ear off about deer, I think. As I was sending him a message and said, annoying you in the airport or whatever. He's talking about his New Zealand trip. Except for
yeah.
that bloke in the airport that annoyed you. I was like,
That's who he's talking
but
about in his podcast. No.
yeah, the yeah, you like you said, you just everyone's just a person. So, but
Definitely.
it's cool to meet people and that they are actually what you say. So you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. I can tick that one off. That they're
Yeah, I remember
they're all
being
right. Yeah,
pretty young and very into the CrossFit world and going over and meeting all these athletes. I'm like, oh my God, like put them on this massive pedestal and you talk to them like, oh no, they just want to work out. Like they're just dudes.
yeah.
They're just women. Yeah.
They still sleep in a bed, eat food.
Uh-huh.
They
Uh-huh.
still eat the same food. They don't go to some different shopping center. They don't go to some different hunting store. They don't. They're just people.
We
Yeah.
actually got to tour Southeast Asia with like one of my favorite bands back in the day when we were playing in music. And that was huge for me. I was like, what the fuck? Like this is crazy. These guys play all over the world and this is insane. We met them, they're just just dudes. They end up having this massive fight in front of us. We're like, oh wow. Like
Yeah.
that's what touring life is like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
Too
cool.
much of each other.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
My cousin's got a story. He lived in Ireland for 10 years and he got a backpacker pregnant, so he had to follow her over and do the. He's a good dude, so he followed over, and but anyway, they're on the piss. I think he got her pregnant over there actually, and they're on the piss anyway. His mate is shit faced, and he comes in. He goes, "Oh mate, you won't believe I got this bloke from down the pub. Fucking showed up. I just seen him at the pub by himself. They fucking come to the fucking party." And he's like, "Oh, there's fucking Jimmy Barnes." So Jimmy Barnes walks in holding a fucking heap of beers into this fucking house party with like six blokes.
How
And my
good.
mate's the only Aussie. He's like, "What?" And it's like, "How you going? I'm Jimmy." It's
Dude, that's
like,
awesome.
yeah, it's just because he mustn't have been a big thing over
Nah,
there. So
exactly.
it
Yeah.
was just a person.
Dude, yeah.
A cousin Warwick, he's like, "What? You don't even know what you got with you." So yeah,
The
pretty cool.
the drummer that used to play in our band, he actually started his own production company. That's what kind of broke the band up. Like he started his production company and it really took off. And he started playing in big bands. Like Guttermouth was one of the first bands they toured, which is like this pretty big punk band back in the 90s, maybe even 2000s. But they came over to Australia and the drummer couldn't get in because he had like felonies or something. So he wasn't able to leave the country essentially. So Alex was like, I can drum. And so like, yeah. And so they sent me a set list and he started playing drums for them. They're like, you're actually really good. Can you come over and drum for us while we're touring? So he just became this paid dude. And along the way, you end up meeting Bam Majira and got off really well with Bam Majira and ended up moving in with Bam. And then they started a band together called Fuckface Unstoppable. They toured all around the world playing together. And when they came over here, we then got to meet like Bam and the crew. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. And then living with Bam, because he was such good friends with, or because he used to date Kat Von D, the tattooist, they were still good friends, although they were not together anymore. And she was now dating Deadmau5. So Alex, the drummer, he started playing for Deadmau5. He was like their stage drummer. So he's like, man, I went from playing, like we'd play 1,000 people shows or something. But he's like, I went from playing those to literally playing like festivals, like the biggest festivals in the world. And he's playing like drum and bass on stage. Like we were literally a hardcore band. So we were like, I was screaming on stage. And then he goes to this. Like it's just such a massive change. And he's just like the most chill. I don't know. He's like a hippie meets surf dude. Like, hey, bro, it's just like such a chill dude, and you can understand why he got so far with what he did. But he's just that there was a big strong lesson in that for me, and like just network, just get to know more people. Like it's the easiest way to make your way through life and have fun while you're doing it.
And he probably didn't. You're not crawling or groveling or trying. He's
Not ever, no, not ever.
just
Yeah,
being whatever.
and yeah, he's lived a crazy life, that's for sure. He definitely came back with a few less brain cells.
Oh,
It was a lot of
it's
white
so worth
powder.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's yeah, and it looks good though if you're like that as a person too. If people look up to you
Mm,
and
you're not arrogant
and
or
you're what you
whatever.
show you are, then
Yeah.
you get a lot more respect off people as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Dude, well, this has been good. Good 2 hours. It's
2 hours. I didn't even think we're that long. I'm like, oh, I gotta have more stuff to say. It's been like an hour. Yeah. I don't think I've got that's the sum of it. That's pretty much the story of Stewart. I didn't go into too many hunts. So I can say I tripped over more than I have in my entire life ever. And if I was a crier, I would have cried there a lot too, being lost, but I'm not. Just a stubborn bastard. It's the other guys had a better time than me because they didn't walk out at night by themselves. So
did they venture in as far as you either, though?
one day the boys did a big loop. They
Mhm.
GPSed it. That's where they found a spot where two of them shot their deer at the end.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they're like, we wish we'd done that earlier,
Mm.
done the big miles earlier.
Well, that's
So
actually a good point. What were some of the other things from those boys? Like apart from that, doing a bigger loop earlier, did anyone else say anything like, "Oh, I wish I'd done this"?
no, mostly that they wish they'd found first in like I did big miles first day, like gone for like 5 or 6 hours, whatever it was. And
Hmm.
that set me up for the success of seeing and finding sign for the rest of the week.
I mean,
They,
makes sense, right? Like get to know your
yeah,
block or where you're hunting.
yeah. So some of the boys had wished they'd done the miles they did by the time they got halfway in. And it's
Yep.
like it took us half the time to figure out where the deer are, and what the deer are doing. But I think if they'd done the big trips, found all the sign areas, and set themselves up in the first couple of days, they would have probably started seeing deer a couple of days earlier.
Mm,
So
yep.
they found spots and they pushed a bit further, and then they're a bit more patient. And um, I probably just jagged where I chose, but I did follow sign. So yeah, but yeah, and there was different levels of experience as well.
Yeah.
I've been doing it a long time, so with hunting deer specifically. So that probably has some contributing factor that there
Definitely
might be
does.
little things I look for that they don't look for. So
Mm,
yeah, but that would be I'd say what them they would probably have to say. And but we've got a video. I've just got 30 gigabytes of photos and videos to
far
go
out.
through, and my Apple computer has shit itself. And I love iMovie and iMovie, whatever the next one is. And now I've got to go to what's it
Premiere
called?
Pro or something.
Premiere Pro, and it is an absolute just set up
You need a
horribly.
degree. Yeah.
It is it just what's the word? It's not intuitive like iMovie was
Mm,
to make. So now I've got to learn. But we got heaps of good footage. We took the drone. But when we got there, I'm like, everybody turn your phone sideways when you're videoing. So we got plenty of guys, instead of just long form videos like selfies, all the guys were turning their videos sideways. So we got videos of carryouts, we got videos of deer getting shot, we got videos
yeah,
of
that's sick.
fishing, we got
Yeah.
drone, epic sunrises there. But it's going to be a good video, but I got to learn from scratch how to do Premiere Pro, so it's going to take me some time to put it together.
Are
But
you doing like lots of transitions and phases and stuff, or not really?
yeah, it'll be
Yeah. Okay.
cinematic. I like
Yeah.
cinematic stuff, so
Okay.
it's gonna. I got there's gonna be. It'll be. It'll just. It'll be more just to show the experience, but
Yeah, definitely.
it'll be good to give a full taste. The problem is we didn't video anyone stacking it, and it happened every
That's the
day.
truth. Yeah, that was the real
Everyone's
truth.
down every day.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I use Descript for all my stuff, and that works pretty well. It's kind of like an AI infused video
Oh, you
editor.
put the footage in and it cuts it all up for you.
Oh, you still have to do the cutting, but there's a lot of stuff that's kind of laid into it that's pretty cool.
Yeah, righto.
So it might be worth checking out. It's not too expensive.
Yeah,
It's a
righto.
lot more intuitive than Premiere, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, this is, and even the layout of Premiere Pro, it's I don't like it.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I'm sorry. So,
All right, Pauline.
yeah, yeah. But it'll be a good bit of film. So when I get that out, that'll be good. I'll put it on my Instagram when I get it out that it's
Mhm.
out on YouTube, so that people want another idea because we do see lots of videos made from Stewart, and there's not a lot of the hunting side as much. There's a couple of good ones out there, but there's tons of the fishing and
Mm.
spear fishing type things. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So your YouTube is just T Hynes and your Instagram is hunt_mountains. That's
Yep.
the two best places to follow along.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any other social media platforms. I'd happily have none, but got to have friends.
Definitely.
Only people I like are on social media, unfortunately. So all the hunting buddies.
You gotta
So
stay there.
yeah, yeah, I'm stuck. I'm trapped. But yeah, I don't. It'll be a while before I get that video up. But and then with boys, there's lots of stuff getting held off on social media. The boys aren't posting much and haven't posted much, and you won't see a lot from Stuart because of the nature of the hunting. There just
Mm.
isn't tons of time
That's what I was about to
to
say. It's like a
video
short, quick
jungle.
capture. Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't get
And you
the
don't have the
there's no
batteries or
fog
the
rolling
SD
mountains.
case. Yeah, exactly. To
Yeah,
just constantly have it running.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I did have a GoPro. The boys had a GoPro.
Hmm.
And I know lots of guys use them. I think you use one, do you, every now and then, a
Every
GoPro?
once in a while, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I hate having a GoPro on my head and I hate watching GoPro footage. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not using a GoPro. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's good, but I just hate how everything looks like it's 50 meters, 100 meters away when you're shooting it. So,
Definitely.
um, um, yeah, it's just there's a lot of it's hard to get video in that environment. It's really hard to get hunting video, especially because you're it's like hunting sambar, trying to walk onto sambar. You just got
Mm.
to be on the ball when you're walking onto the deer. So when you're walking in, you don't have time to just be la-di-da videoing because
No, exactly.
by the time you see it, it's too late.
Yeah, actually, I was looking into buying a new camera and I was like, do I just get another GoPro? And then there's so many better cameras out there now, especially for the outdoor action stuff. In particular, the Insta360s. Have you seen any of their stuff? They're the ones that you
No,
can literally
no,
take
I
like a
haven't looked into
360
it.
view. It's pretty sick. So they've got cameras front and back. Like there's different variations of them, but the one I've been looking at is actually the Ace Pro, which is literally their version of the GoPro, but it's got a flippable screen. So
Yep.
you can do all your edits on the actual camera. So you don't have to jump in, or you've got an app on your phone. So you can do your edit on your camera, don't have to do anything else, and then you just send it straight through. Like it's so crazy what technology is coming up with now, like the amount that you can do with them now. So I was kind of like, oh, if I can start if I can start videoing more with my GoPro, then I'll do it. Like you're already in motion, you might as well make it happen. I've done nothing with my GoPro, so I haven't bought one yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's also I've got a whole set of film there from my daughter's first hunt that we went on, but I'm kind of it's just a time and effort thing to put into the editing afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. It'll take this Stewart Island will take me like
Oh, it'll take ages.
100 hours.
Yeah.
Like I like doing it as good as I can get it with the footage we have, and
Hmm.
spent I've already spent 10 hour, a couple of hour sessions on it, just getting 2 minutes of footage, getting it all transferred to the SD. And
Yeah.
I lost the SD card and the reader and then found it in between the seats in my car. I thought I left on the airplane. So
God.
everyone's uploading it to Dropbox and then I couldn't download it off Dropbox. And yeah.
So we'll see that video in 4 years' time.
Yeah, 2029. Yeah.
Good. We'll look forward to it.
I will make a conscious effort to do it while it's fresh in my mind. But if you see any of my other videos, it'll be in the same style. It's not as action packed. It's more cinematic. This is the scenery. This is
Yeah.
trying to put a bit of emotion into it. Not a real like I like those other ones where it's like proper hunting. Like when you watch these videos and it's like bang, there's the deer, there's the pigs. We're on.
Definitely. Yeah.
Or other blokes. It's more the other style. This is what the experience was like. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Being able to capture it and showcase it, even if it is 12 minutes worth or whatever it is, right? Like it's still cool to be able to showcase it in that realm.
I want to leave people wanting. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Just like when they see my profile picture. No.
Just an extreme close up of you. Well, dude, thank you very much. It's been good. It's good to get some insights into Stewart Island. I'd heard so much about it, but I really didn't know much about it at all. And yeah, it actually has made me very interested, to be honest. So it's cool to kind of, I guess, stroke the bird a bit and make you a bit more interested in it.
Yeah, it is you don't go there to shoot a trophy buck. You go there to shoot a whitetail, catch a fish, switch off from the world, enjoy a new environment. Like that's the whole package. Yeah. If you go there to shoot a buck, you're gonna come home with a buck or disappointed.
Yeah.
So go there to experience with the hope that you run into a buck. Otherwise you shoot a deer and delicious. And the skins, they're fur, they're not hair. So they're awesome. Like proper
Rabbit.
inch and a half thick, like a rabbit, like they're fur. And so they are beautiful pelts. And there's a tannery in Invercargill. You can take them straight to there. Or if you fly red-eye flights into any of the capital cities, they will not give you a hard time. Because you can bring green capes back into the country. You legally can.
No way. How good.
So it's whether or not the people you bring them back in give you a hard time and ask for all the paperwork.
Do you have to do paperwork at all?
You don't have to. No, you can bring a game. You're legally, don't hold me to it. Read up on yourself. I'm pretty sure you can walk in.
My mate Tobie said
with a green cape, if you get, and then people who understand the law properly will let you in. If they don't, that's when you run into a hard time. I bought a deer head. I bought a buck head back in that I found on the beach.
Yeah, wow.
And I declared it, and it's covered in discolored and everything. I cleaned it and scrubbed it in the sink at the B&B, but I said to old mate at night, he's like, "What do you got?" And I'm like, "I got a deer head, man, from Stewart Island." He's like, "Was it clean?" I said, "Oh, it's brown. It's been sitting in the mud and everything." He said, "Yeah, but is there?" He said, "There's no dirt particles on it." He said, "Yeah, it's all good." Didn't look at it. So yeah. And I know people who've bought in green cakes before and they're like, "Yeah, I got a deer skin." And they're like, "Oh yeah, where you come from?" "New Zealand." "Yeah, righto, no worries." "Is there any flesh on it?" "No." "Righto, you're all good."
Yeah, wow.
So on your skulls, you can't have flesh. And the same with the capes, I'm pretty sure you've got to have no flesh on them.
Yeah.
So they just got to be skin and fur. Yeah, I don't know if you can bring domestic animals in. I think it's only that non-native species. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not as big a deal as some people make out, I don't think. So
And then did any of the boys take their skins straight to taxidermies over there?
oh, they all went straight to the tannery. I think we dropped off 5 skins at the tannery.
And so they just send it across for you.
Yeah, they'll pay for it. They'll pay for it 10. And I think they were talking about shipping it all in one big container and then someone dividing it up in the country and dispersing it because it'd be cheaper than having everyone pay international freight for 5 different packages.
What would it go for like one?
Oh, I got no idea. Didn't take any notice.
Yeah, gotcha.
All I know is that is the best tannery you'll ever go into. They're tan everything. There's cat skins, stoats, pigs, full pig skin. I'm like, who skins and puts a pig rug down? Like this spotty boars like stretched out on the wall tan. There's sheep, there's possums, there's alpacas, there's every animal in New Zealand that's got a skin is in that shop and for sale. And then fawns, like undead fawns. I take dead fawn skins and they'll skin them. Like everything, just it's like crazy. Containers full of there'll be tons and tons of skins in there, and you can buy them all. Yeah.
I wonder
Same
if they
with
export them or do something with them, like further.
I think they must sell them. They must be a wholesaler for them,
Mm,
and they're cheap. They were a reasonable price. It was like $60 for a skin,
right. That's
for a little
hectic.
skin. Yeah. So they were, and they're just a shed in a back street in Invercargill. So, um, it
I've
was
not
cool.
paid under 200 for a skin, I don't think yet.
No, I was looking there. They had a possum, doona cover. And
Yes.
I was like, yeah, I just don't live. It's cold where I live, but it's not that
Not that
cold.
cold,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It'd be so nice to have a soft grey possum skin like doona. It'd be so sick.
Is it literally just like 20 hides, 100 hides or whatever, just all
Yeah,
stitched
yeah. It's
together?
just
Yeah,
like,
wow.
yeah, it's like a heap of, and they're like rabbits. They're just thicker,
Yeah.
thicker and more like, yeah, bushier, but soft still. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
epic.
yeah. That was that they all said they'd wish they'd bought their skins back with them because
And
of
over here, yeah.
security, because of ease of security, and when they flew back in,
Yeah, got
you
you.
feel like you're going to get strip searched, but yeah, they
Mm.
didn't. Oh, I bought power shells back in too, and had
Oh,
no
yeah.
issue with them. Yeah, the boys in
Like ones that
Brisbane,
you'd
they
found
inspect.
yourselves.
Yeah, because so many divers over there eat them. There's
Leave
piles
them.
of them on the beach.
Yeah, wow.
So we picked out big ones, and then I bought back and I ground mine down here and polished it. They're quite thin, but yeah, got that mad,
Super
like
awesome.
whatever
Yeah.
that harlequin looking shell is. So yeah,
Yeah.
got four big shells, and sand and sand and sand to polish. They get thin, but yeah, it looks cool. And they're like, yeah, there's no issues with that. You can bring that back. Yeah,
All
there's
right.
certain things you can't, but just do your research so that when you're standing there, you can say, and I read it and had it, that there's shells you can't bring back and then there's shells you can bring back. And I was just hoping that it was the shells I can. And yeah, so they said, yeah, there's no problems with them.
Well, they sell them
So
everywhere, like
yeah.
as tourist attraction pieces. So if you just said, I bought
Oh, the
it.
boys bought necklaces for their missus and then got them, and
Yeah.
it said, no, this is, and it was written on it, shell necklace or shell something, and they're like, here's the receipt. If they said anything. So yeah, I'm just like, I've got that. I checked the documents. I'm like, I'll have it there, and if they question it, what are they going to do? They're just
Yeah,
going to take it off
exactly.
you. So
Yeah.
you just declare. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing. Coming back, just declare, and going in, declare everything. You're not
Mm.
a felony or a charge or a fine if you declare everything.
Yeah.
You could declare like an 8 ball, and they'll take it off you, but they can't charge you because you declared it. So it's like, just declare it, and if you're worried about a cape, say, or a head, I know the boys come back from New Zealand with tar heads all the time. Just got to have no flesh on them. Make them
Mm.
smell like bleach. Same with the capes, salted, no flesh on them. But if you declare everything, and if you're not sure, leave it. But if you're unsure, you just declare.
Mm.
And there's a good chance if you're declaring everything, and they check a couple of your things, like they check, say you got a deer head and they check it's all clean, they're not even going to look. They're going to like, this dude's cleaned his head, he's cleaned his boots. No, the Aussies don't check your tent unless
Mm.
you come in and you look like trash. But if you've cleaned everything up, I bought back one year, I bought like 5 or 6 red deer antlers, massive red deer antlers. Some of them come out of the mud in a wallow, and I just pressure washed them at a car wash in NZ. And then
How good.
I declared them, brought them out, and I'm like, do you need to spray them? And old love's like, no, no, they're clean. Off you go. Yeah. So
There you go. So there's no
yeah.
inspection in regards to you going into Stewart Island, because I read that biosecurity is a thing they talk about, but obviously
Oh
it's not
yeah.
something
So
they
we
check
got
on.
no, there's not. They just encourage you not to take stuff in.
Mm.
Like there's nothing. There is biosecurity, but there's not a lot. There's no farms. There's no agriculture.
Hmm.
There's an environment there, like there's bugger all animals, like saying the bush is quiet. There's no spiders. You don't walk for any spider webs.
How
No
pleasant.
snakes. No lizards. No, like the lights at night have sandflies. There's no moths.
Yeah.
There's all that stuff in Australia. You can't even breathe the air around a light globe at night because it's full of that much wildlife. Like over there, there's just bugger all. So I think there's a few things they say to not bring on, but no, there's we got a visit, so we're just about to leave, and we were doing everything good. I was only worried about a fire. They say don't have outside fires, and I think it's because it's a national park and it's a national
Mm-hmm.
rule to not
Mm-hmm.
have fires outside designated fire pits, and they don't have designated fire pits, and they don't want you to cut the wood down on the island. So that's why they say don't have outside fires. But we were getting rid of the weird waste, like our cardboard or food waste and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Stuff we didn't want to, like we had a box full of tinnies, we had a bag full of plastic bottles, and we had the other plasticky crap, and then we had like the cardboard and bits we wanted to burn and have
Yeah.
an outside fire and have a few beers. So we had that burning that day. We were doing a pile burn, and I was just worried about the fire outside. And then this big boat shows up, and the boys are like, "Get the binoculars out." Yeah, it's the cops. So it was, well, we weren't doing anything wrong. So we were just all ready to leave camp, and they all had to come back in, go into the hut, get all the paperwork out. And he literally just glanced over and he's like, "Yeah, check the guns. Yeah, your boys haven't got any bullets in any of your guns. You're running empty. When you store them, where are the bullets? Where is this happening?" Said, "What about your fish?" And we'd been fishing and we had a bucket out there with a few frames in it. We just said, "No, we're not doing." They didn't care about anything else. It's like, "You getting any power?" And we're like, "Nah, we can't dive." That was the last fishing question. I would love from the fisheries poked her head in the bucket when she left, but the frames must have looked size enough,
Yeah.
like she knew what she was looking at. And she just walked off. So they had a Maori. They had the local cop. You got one cop for the whole island. He's at Oban. He's been there like 20 something years. He said this year was the first year he's been to a hunting block and he's actually seen the same person twice.
No way.
So he's like, normally there's that varied. He never runs into anyone again, any hunters. But
Okay.
they were really good to deal with. They're just like,
Yeah.
"Here you go. This is good. You've got your rifle paperwork, your guns are stored wood, you're keeping the hut clean, you're doing everything right."
Mm.
And he was the one that said, "Don't just watch out for people landing that aren't residents or anything." And he says, "That's why you got to have your guns chained up. Um, you got to have your guns locked up, and no ammunition out is for people who are coming
Yeah. Wow.
onto the
So,
island. More so, they're not worried about the other hunters. They're worried about people getting off the boats
yeah. Wow. And
that are
so they give
traveling."
you some sort of cabinet to lock your guns up with as
No, they
well.
give you there's a cable and a padlock,
Yeah. Okay.
and it's a padlock you can break with a small screwdriver, but it's a deterrent. So it's
Got
just
you.
a wire cable and a little padlock you get on your $2 brass padlock, but
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
deterrent. You just run that through your anyone who wants to really steal a gun, they can, but it's just to
Mm.
keep them safe. But they were quite happy. And he said one day he actually found a gun loaded in the cabin
Mm.
and another gun with bullets in the magazines and no one at the cabin. And he's like, "You can't have that."
Yeah.
You're like, "You can't have that." And
Becomes
that's what,
problematic.
so you just do the right thing. And they were great. And they gave us these chocolate fish, which are marshmallow filled
Oh,
chockies. It was like the
like
best
a
thing ever
national
when
treasure, isn't it?
no one, I took a block of chocolate. No one else took any sweets. And we're all tonguing for them. So when this cop showed up with chocolates, we're like, "Oh, fuck yeah."
Besties.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were, yeah, awesome. It was great interaction, awesome
Yeah.
interaction. They had all their wet up to their waist, black rubber ducky coming in as like the SWAT team. Like, yeah, the boys are scattered. No,
Yeah.
everyone's raid. It's a
Yeah,
raid.
quick, get out of here.
Quick, eat all the drugs. Like that scene off Super Troopers. We're all sitting in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cabin.
exactly. Oh, so good. Such a good movie. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, bro. Anyway, that's been
Yeah.
good. Thank you. Appreciate your
All
time.
right. Yeah. Good to be on. Good to chat. Hopefully,
Always.
people get plenty out of it, a bit more understanding. Anyone hit me up for any questions? There's plenty of guys who do this Stewart Island thing every year, so suss them out as well. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, bro.